You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit and I chip it again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 8th part of What If Deku Meets Powerpuff Girls. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of ChiWriters on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. The sun broke out, casting its light over the Japanese landscape. In the Yamanashi district, beyond Tokyo, Izukumidoriya yawned as he opened the front door of his mentor's worn-down apartment building to take out the trash. His tired eyes struggled to stay open, a result of yesterday's intense sparring session or what could be called practice if getting thoroughly beaten could be considered practice. Even with my control over a portion of One for All, he mumbled to himself. I still couldn't take Gran Torino down. Even at his age, he moves with incredible speed. His gaze shifted to the couch where. Still licking your wounds from the whooping I gave you. Gah! Midoriya yelped in surprise as he flipped around to find Gran Torino standing behind him. He panted, startled, trying to regain his composure. Oh, Gran Torino, yes, I'm still a little sore, he replied awkwardly. Gran Torino simply stared at the boy, recalling yesterday's events. It had been quite eventful. When he challenged Midoriya to demonstrate his skills, he was mildly impressed. He had already seen the boy's performance at the sports festival, witnessing his nascent control over One for All. But he needed to see firsthand if Midoriya was truly worthy of the power. Well, even though I managed to land a few hits of my own, it was just exhaustion that got the best of me, the old hero acknowledged. I suppose I need to work on my power output. The old hero realized Midoriya was busy talking, probably about his powers. Midoriya looked back at the older man, who stared blankly for several seconds. Who are you again? Gran Torino asked cheerfully. I'm Midoriya, he replied, exasperated. Izuku frowned in confusion at the man's question, still wondering how he could alternate between seeming senile and then sharp and focused every 10 seconds. But he knew one thing for sure: this man was undeniably strong. Yesterday had proven that beyond doubt. Even though Midoriya managed to land a couple of hits and only succumbed to exhaustion, he had taken quite a few blows from Gran Torino. The old man's speed was astonishing, darting around the room at almost impossible speeds thanks to his jet quirk. Never mind that, Gran Torino interrupted his thoughts. Let's get some grub. He cheerfully strode into the kitchen. Midoriya sighed and followed the elder into the kitchen, his eyes widening in surprise as he saw a large plate of frozen taiyaki pastries. Huh? But aren't those desserts, sir? He questioned. Oh, there's nothing wrong with a snack in the morning. Go ahead and get them cooking. Torino chirped, settling at the table. All right. Midoriya rolled his eyes as he placed the plate in the microwave. As it heated up, his mind raced. The brief moment of silence was once again broken by his mentor. Listen here, kid. Gran Torino's attention was now fully on Midoriya. He sighed. I must say, you weren't exactly what I expected when I first saw you on TV. I almost thought my old student was crazy when he chose you. Midoriya flinched at the remark. But, I suppose I was wrong. I'm impressed that you managed to keep up with me, even landing a couple of shots. Your control over One for All is quite impressive, considering you've only had it for a short time. Tell me, did you figure it out through your overthinking, or did my old student actually learn to be a good teacher? The sound of the microwave dinging saved his nerves. He took out the plate and served the meal to the eager hero. Honestly, sir, I had some help from a couple of friends at my school. They don't know the secret, but I admired their control over their powers, so I asked for their help, Izuku said, fidgeting. Gran Torino nodded. I see. I would say it was foolish to risk your secret like that, but I understand the end goal, especially if you can HRNSS at least 10% of the quirk now. No thanks to that big dope, he added dismissively. Izuku was a bit uncomfortable. In all fairness to All Might, sir, he did his best to guide me in preparing to use my quirk, Izuku replied, taking a bite of his snack. Your admiration of All Might seems to be holding you back, the old hero muttered to himself. What? Izuku asked in confusion. You need to decide what kind of hero you want to be, instead of being a copy of someone else, he said gruffly, finishing off his third helping. You have heart, kid, but that can only take you so far, if you don't know who you are first, he said as he finished off his last bite. Now, if you're finished, I'd like to beat you up some more. You'll learn something, and I'll get a good laugh, Gran Torino chuckled. Hopefully, you'll learn some new tricks by the end of this internship. Izuku fell silent. He didn't fully understand what Torino meant, but he was determined to MSTR his quirk. Have to find new ways to grow, he told himself silently. Endeavor's agency. Around noon, the training room at Endeavor's agency simmered with controlled intensity, designed to withstand the searing heat generated by heroes training their fiery quirks. It was time for his training sessions on how to properly control his fire side. Todoroki stood at one end, while Burnin prepared herself at the opposite side. Burnin was a striking figure, her blazing hair a vibrant green that seemed to flicker with an inner flame. Her eyes, a piercing red-orange, held a fierce determination that matched the intensity of her quirk. She wore a light gray double-breasted mini dress with orange and black accents, her outfit completed with black knee-high socks and short boots. Her mask, reminiscent of bakugou's, added to her formidable appearance. Todoroki squared his shoulders, his mind focused on the task ahead. He knew he had to MSTR his fire side, to prove himself not to his father, but to himself. She smirked, a confident curl of her lips before she launched the first wave of fiery hair projectiles towards Todoroki. The strands of green fire hurtled towards him with alarming speed. Todoroki reacted instinctively, conjuring a wall of ice to shield himself. The heat from Burnin's attacks melted the ice almost instantly, forcing Todoroki to leap sideways to avoid the burning remnants. You're slower than I expected, Todoroki, Burnin taunted, her voice cutting through the crackling of flames. Is that all you've got? Endeavor's son should be able to handle more than a few fireballs. Todoroki gritted his teeth, frustration simmering beneath his icy facade. He focused on his left side, the reservoir of fire quirk inherited from his father. Flames flickered, hesitant and uncertain, as Todoroki struggled to HRNSS their power. Burnin didn't relent, launching another barrage of fiery hair projectiles. Todoroki dodged and weaved, his movements becoming more erratic as he tried to find an opening. The air around them grew hotter with each passing moment, a testament to the intensity of their battle. Come on, Todoroki. Burnin goaded, her voice dripping with scorn. I expected more from the prodigy of Endeavor. Or are you just a disappointment like your old man said you were? Todoroki's jaw tightened, his resolve hardening as he pushed himself to the limit. He summoned a surge of fire, directing it towards Burnin, in a controlled burst. The flames licked at her defenses, but she danced effortlessly out of harm's way, her mocking laughter echoing in the chamber. You call that fire? Burnin sneered, her eyes alight with amusement. I've seen candles with more heat than that. You're not even trying, Todoroki. The word struck a nerve, fueling Todoroki's determination. He pushed harder, his attacks growing more aggressive as he sought to prove himself. But each attempt fell short, the fire wavering and faltering under the weight of his insecurities. Just as Todoroki summoned another burst of flames, Burnin seized the opportunity. With a swift movement, she closed the distance between them, her hand grasping a chunk of blazing hair. She swung it with precise force, striking Todoroki squarely in the chest. The impact sent Todoroki staggering backwards, pain flaring where the fiery hair had struck him. He stumbled and fell to one knee, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he struggled to regain his composure. "You're pathetic," Vernon scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "Is this the best you can do? No wonder your father has his doubts." Todoroki clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white with the effort to control his anger. He knew Vernon was goading him, testing his limits. Yet, her words cut deeper than any physical blow. Before Vernon could deliver another barb, the training room door slid open with a resounding clang. Endeavor strode in, his fiery presence filling the chamber with palpable tension. His eyes, burning with intensity, locked onto his son with a mixture of disappointment and frustration. "Pathetic," Endeavor echoed Vernon's sentiment, his voice a low growl that reverberated off the walls. "Is this the best you can muster, Shoto? I expected more from you." Todoroki clenched his jaw, meeting his father's gaze without flinching. He never really cared about the lofty standards set by his father, nor did he care about his present disappointment. The thing that stung the most, was that he knew that he could be better than him, he was just falling short. "Just get up, Shoto," Endeavor continued, his tone harsh and unforgiving. "If you can't handle the heat, how will you ever surpass me? How will you ever become the hero I want you to be?" Todoroki pushed himself upright, ignoring the ache in his muscles as he steadied his stance. He couldn't care less about his father's ideals for him, not one bit. He refused to let his father's harsh words break him, like when he was younger, refused to give in to the doubts that threatened to overwhelm him. Before Endeavor could say more, a sharp beep cut through the tense atmosphere. Endeavor's communicator buzzed urgently, a call that demanded his immediate attention. "I have to go," Endeavor announced curtly, his eyes narrowing as he glanced between Todoroki and Vernon. "Continue the training. And Todoroki, don't disappoint me again." With that, Endeavor turned on his heel and strode out of the room, leaving Todoroki and Vernon alone once more in the searing heat of their battle. Todoroki drew in a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. He knew he had to dig deeper, to find the strength within himself to mstr his fire side. Vernon watched him with keen interest, her fiery hair coiling around her like a protective mantle. "Ready to try again, BRT?" Vernon asked, her voice surprisingly gentle compared to her earlier taunts. "This time, show me what you're truly capable of." Todoroki nodded silently, his eyes narrowing with determination. He focused his mind, summoning the fire within him with newfound resolve. This time, he would not falter. Outside the doors of the training room, Endeavor's communicator buzzed urgently. He finally answered, the voice on the other end delivering the news without hesitation. "Hero killer Stain sighted in Hosu. Requesting your immediate presence." Endeavor's eyes narrowed with fierce determination. Without a moment's hesitation, he responded curtly, "On my way," and cut the call abruptly. As the communicator returned to his pocket, Endeavor's mind raced with anticipation. The prospect of facing such a formidable opponent sparked a fire within him, a chance not only to protect but to prove his strength, to show the world his demps as the top hero. His eyes glinted with resolve, flames flickering around him as a determined smile curled his lips. This encounter with hero killer Stain wasn't just another mission. It was a stepping stone toward his ultimate goal, a chance to push himself further than ever before. From another city, in a high-rise building overlooking the bustling streets below, Edgeshot stood with quiet intensity, his phone pressed to his ear. The cityscape of Hosu sprawled out before him, its skyline dotted with the signs of heroism and vigilance. His voice was steady as he spoke, confirming details to an unseen authority. "Understood," he replied succinctly before ending the call with a decisive click. As he slipped the phone back into his pocket, Edgeshot's gaze swept across the training field below. His intern was in the middle of a sparring match with his sidekicks, and he watched closely. The dojo room exemplified a seamless blend of traditional martial arts aesthetics with state-of-the-art technology, creating an immersive and dynamic training environment. Its spacious interior featured polished wooden floors and walls adorned with intricate bamboo motifs, evoking a sense of tranquility and discipline. Padded surfaces lined the periphery, designed to absorb the impact of vigorous combat maneuvers while ensuring the safety of its occupants. Blossom found herself amidst Edge Shot's ninja-clad sidekicks, some armed with weapons while others prepared for hand-to-hand, quirk combat. She wore her hero costume, her eyes glowing with focus and concentration as she assumed a ready stance. One of the sidekicks, wielding a metal bow staff, struck first. As the individual swung at Blossom, she deftly dodged the attack, executing a backflip several feet away. In a swift motion, she delivered a telekinetic strike that knocked the staff out of their hand. In a blink of an eye, the same ninja summoned two kunai into their hands and charged at Blossom. Must be a quirk ability, she thought to herself. With her fast reflexes, she narrowly avoided being struck, but just then, she sensed a presence closing in from behind. Reacting swiftly, she bolted out of harm's way, rolling a good distance away before unleashing a blast of telekinetic energy that sent the one ninja, using a camouflage quirk to blend in, falling back. Suddenly, without warning, Blossom exclaimed, "Oomph," realizing her legs were entangled in wires. She looked up to see a female ninja manipulating wires extending from her wrist gauntlets. "Sorry, little girl, you're done," the ninja said confidently as she lifted Blossom up and prepared to slam her down with force. Just before impact, Blossom, surrounded by a faint pink glow, moved her hands out, sharpening the aura to cut through the wires binding her legs. The female ninja was taken aback by this unexpected turn, allowing Blossom to land gracefully and swiftly retaliate with a powerful telekinetic blast that knocked her opponent down. Before she could catch her breath, a flurry of smoke surrounded Blossom. "What the?" she began. Only to find herself confronted by over a dozen ninja clones emerging from the haze. "Seems like you're a little confused," each clone spoke in unison, disorienting Blossom momentarily. "I see that this will be tricky," she muttered, her senses on high alert as she prepared to face the onslaught. As the clones charged all at once, Blossom swiftly maneuvered, fluidly dodging and parrying attacks. She remained cautious, not knowing which attacks were genuine and which were deceptive. She unfortunately was feeling the unease and pressure from the relentless pursuit, that it made her feel overwhelmed. "Miss Kayama, you must remember what I taught you. Stay calm and use your inner sense to catch the smallest of details," Edge Shot's voice called out from a distance, reinforcing her resolve. Blossom's heart raced as she faced the onslaught of ninja clones, each one indistinguishable from the next. Their coordinated attacks pushed her agility and reflexes to the limit as she weaved through their strikes with practiced precision. Her eyes scanned the battlefield, searching for any subtle clues or tells that might reveal the real opponent among the illusions. Amidst the chaos, she focused inward, tapping into her enhanced senses and sharpened intuition. With each movement, she analyzed the nuances of their attacks, the timing, the intensity, the cadence of their movements. Gradually, she started to discern slight variations among the clones, subtle differences that hinted at their true nature. As another wave of attacks came rushing towards her, Blossom instinctively sidestepped a feint and spun, releasing a flurry of frost, dispersing the clones until she managed to encase the real one. The rest of the remaining ninjas seemed to have dodged the icy waves and were ready to charge again. Tired but ready to go for another round, Blossom was glowing in preparation, till she heard clapping from the side. "Well done, Miss Kayama. Excellent reflexes and wonderful analytical skills you demonstrated there," Edge Shot praised, walking over to the group. He signaled his sidekicks and they bowed before they left. He turned to her, "I do have some points of where you made some crucial, as well as subtle mistakes, but we will talk about it on the way." He turned on his heels straight to the exit. "Oh, we are going out. Where to, sir?" Blossom inquired, catching up to her mentor. "A situation has been brought to my attention and I have decided that this will be a good opportunity to have a more hands-on approach," Edge Shot explained, to which Blossom just nodded. She had an eerie feeling in her stomach. Later that day, high above the city, the roof of Hosu's water tower was enshrouded by the swirling mist of Kurogiri's warp gate, the portal door forming to allow Stain to stroll through. The blade-wielding killer hissed in satisfaction of being back onto his vantage point of the landscape, his tongue flicking out across his lips in anticipation. The sun is almost down. Perfect time to begin the hunt once more, he said to himself as he heard footsteps behind. He glared over his shoulder to see Shigaraki walk through as well, before Kurogiri appeared in his normal form. You decided to follow me here as well, I see, Stain grunted out. I just had to know if you are so against my ideals, what kind of plans do you have in store? Shigaraki asked in return, bringing a large grin to Stain's face as he looked out to the city below. I will reform this wretched society. The title of hero is reserved for those who do great deeds, and yet that has been lost. This world is infested with false champions, all they care about is money and fame. And I will not stop until the world sees the truth. Saying that, a sudden unease crept up his body. Stain's hand gripped the hilt of his blade and stepped forward. Our business is done for now. And I would keep to yourself from now on. I may target all those imposters, but a criminal can just as easily fall to my blade. Whipping out his sword, Stain leaped off the water tower and down to the roof below, bursting forward and jumping from rooftop to rooftop. Standing in the breeze, Shigaraki brought his hand up and scratched at his neck once more. DMN him. Who does he think he is? Does he think he is actually a good guy or something? Oh, I don't know. The duo quickly turned around to that familiar voice. A mortal that believes in their ideals, long enough, can oftentimes become disillusioned by themselves. It's one of the wonders of man, him appeared before them, as his Mr. X persona. Shigaraki looked all types of pissed while Kurogiri could tell something was brewing. Red eyes glared daggers from in between the severed hand's fingers. What the hell are you doing here? You didn't bother to show your clown face at the meeting concerning the hero killer before, so what makes you have the right to show up now? He spat, voice dripping with indignation and venom. Mr. X just gave a Cheshire grin that spoke of mischief and danger, not lost on Kurogiri. My dear fellows, I would advise that you stay around for the fun. The hero killer and I had a little meeting since the last time he talked with you all, he said, eyes gleaming with amusement. What cheat code strategies are you pulling? Shigaraki demanded. Kurogiri found his voice. What did you and the hero killer discuss, exactly? His asked with intrigue. Oh, he just understands that there are bigger fish to fry in the grand scheme of things, but I can't say anything else. Mr. X walked away, much to the annoyance of Shigaraki. Till next time, gentlemen, he called over his shoulder, disappearing into the fires that erupted beneath him, disappeared into smoke. Shigaraki clenched his fists, his irritation palpable. What a cryptic bstrd, he muttered through gritted teeth. Kurogiri's mist shifted as he regarded Shigaraki thoughtfully. It seems Mr. X has his own agenda, he remarked calmly. One that may intersect with ours in unexpected ways. I don't care about his agenda, Shigaraki snapped. I care about taking down heroes and dismantling this society. Kurogiri nodded slowly. Of course. But we should remain vigilant. His games could pose a threat if underestimated. Shigaraki glared at the spot where Mr. X had vanished. Yeah, well, he won't catch me off guard next time, he growled, his determination renewed. He let out a small manic chuckle and looked back to his follower. Kurogiri, bring out the Nomus. Kurogiri's eyes widened slightly to the request, but he nodded and activated his quirk once more. The portal formed in front of them, allowing the three mutated figures to walk through the gateway. One was similar to the USJ Nomu but slightly smaller and no beaked mouth. The other was green and sickly thin, while the third was the height of an average adult, but tan and with wings. The creatures all hunkered out of the swirling gate and stood before Shigaraki, his eyes beaming with excitement behind the hand covering his face. I don't know what's worse, Shigaraki began, his voice dripping with anticipation as he surveyed the monstrous creations before him, heroes who claim to protect and serve, or these abominations that we've created. The green Nomu let out an eerie screech, its malformed mouth opening and closing in a grotesque parody of speech. It was unsettling, even for Shigaraki, who found solace in the chaos they brought. Kurogiri hovered silently nearby, his mist swirling thoughtfully. "Shall I send them out to wreak havoc, Tomura?" he inquired, his voice as composed as ever despite the volatile situation. "Not yet," Shigaraki replied, a dangerous smirk spreading beneath his hand. "Let's let them stew for a while longer. The city hasn't seen our full strength in some time." The tan Noma shifted uneasily, its wings twitching against its sides. It was a formidable sight, towering over Shigaraki, who stood unflinchingly before the trio of mutants. Meanwhile, him, in his Mr. X guise, observed from the shadows, his green eyes glinting with amusement. He had stirred the pot, knowing full well the chaos that would ensue. His own agenda remained obscured, but for now, the discord he sowed among villains and heroes alike was entertainment enough. As night settled over Hosu City, the stage was set for another night of darkness and conflict, where ideals clashed and power reigned supreme. In the shadows, figures moved with purpose, each driven by their own desires and ambitions, unknowingly bound by the threads of fate that intertwined their destinies. Midoriya shifted in the seat next to Gran Torino as they bounced along the train track. The hero in training looked over to the older man next to him and smiled. "I just wanted to say thanks for this, Gran Torino. Don't sweat it, kid. It's good to give you some in-field experience, so you don't get any habits of just practicing with me," Torino responded and went back to tapping his seat. "My part of town is pretty boring, that's why we have to get out and into the big city." Sighing, Midoriya adjusted his gloves, still getting used to the new upgraded outfit he was wearing. Since his previous one was ruined in training, the school took the liberty of upgrading it and giving him a new one, with the design ideas from Bubbles. He then looked outside the now dark sky in the window, and noticed they were passing by Hosu. Knowing where he was, Ilda immediately came to his mind. "I hope he's doing alright. He hasn't been answering any of my messages," Midoriya said to himself. Ever since they all went their own ways, he was worried about his friend, and wanted to help him get through this hard time. "Hey, what's that fire out there?" "Huh?" Both Midoriya and Gran Torino looked behind at the sudden statement from the other passengers, noticing everyone on the other side of the train staring out the windows. Gran Torino raised an eyebrow and sat up. "Hey, what's all the commotion back dash?" Boom! The side of the train suddenly burst open, smoke and screams filling the cabin instantly. Midoriya jumped out of his seat in shock from the hard impact. What's going on? Through the smoke, a hero crawled up from the ground, his body bruised and bloodied from the impact. He didn't even have time to crawl to his feet before a bony hand shot through the cloud of smoke and slammed into his face. Midoriya's eyes went wide as the grotesque green figure ripped through the rest of the train's wall, the familiar brain on the creature's head catching his attention. "A Nomu? What's that doing here?" "Kid, stay back!" Gran Torino yelled out, bursting off his seat and rocketing through the air. The older hero kicked off the side wall and slammed the beast in the stomach and rocketed it out of the train. "Gran Torino!" Midoriya ran after his mentor and to the opening in the train, looking to find the hero. But his eyes caught sight of what was beyond. What is going on? Midoriya's eyes gave up trying to find the hero who just left, only able to stare at the many fires raging in the city. Once he was able to get off the train, Midoriya sprinted down the road straight towards the fires. His heart pounded in his chest, unable to get over the fact he saw another Nomu. What's going on? Why is there a Nomu here? He yelled to himself as he weaved through the fleeing crowds. His mind then replayed the USJ event in his head, thinking back to how close him and his friends were to dying from just one of those things. But even though he was scared, he kept running towards the chaos. He had to see if anyone needed help. Another loud crash rang through the air as Midoriya came closer, rounding the corner and coming upon the ongoing battle. Multiple heroes were fighting back not only the growing fires, but two different figures in the intersection. His eyes widened in shock as he saw a large dark figure coming through the fire, the Nomu's bluish body similar to the one that attacked the USJ. But what shocked him even more was the one flying above. There's multiple Nomas here. What the heck is going on? Midoriya gasped in shock as one of the heroes rushed and tried to tackle the larger Noma down, only for the pro to be thrown back like a rag doll. Several others were trying to strike the smaller and flying Nomu with range attacks, but its speed was too much for them to hit. Suddenly one of the chunks of debris came flying his direction, the teen panicking before another hero jumped and pushed him out of the way. "What are you doing here, kid? Get back from here." The female hero scolded him. Sorry. I will." Midoriya quickly got back to his feet as the woman went back to distracting the creature for another hero to attack. The shaken teen watched in shock as the multiple number of heroes here could only hold the creatures back, none of their abilities strong enough to stop them. "Ida! DMN, where the hell did he go?" The shout from the side caught Midoriya's attention, looking over and seeing a hero in blue extinguishing flames with his water quirk. He stared at the man for a moment before he realized who it was. Wait, the water hero manual. That's who Ida went and served under. But he isn't here and... Midoriya's mouth fell open in horror when it came into his mind. Why he never thought of it before completely baffled him, feeling his blood run cold in realization. Wait, we are in Hosu, where Ida's brother was brought down by the hero killer. Ida, don't tell me. Spinning around, Midoriya sprinted down the road as fast as he could, praying he could find his friend before it was too late. Tenya looked up into the sky to the large plume of smoke and flames that rose above the buildings, his heart beating like crazy in his chest. Even as Manuel called for him to follow, he barely heard as his mind was spinning trying to figure out what was going on. Is this him? He whispered internally as he ran after the hero. No, the hero killer is a stealth fighter. He wouldn't cause such an act and draw others around to find him. Something else has caused this attack. The troubled teen couldn't shake the feeling, though, that something bigger was happening. His eyes barely looked to the hero in front of him, his gaze shifting all around himself. But when he passed a darkened alleyway, his heart felt like it stopped beating in his chest. His feet froze on the spot as he looked down the corridor, catching the glimpse of something disappearing into the shadows. Was. Tenya was beyond thinking rationally at this point. His mind blocked out all other thoughts as he stared into the lonely alleyway, unable to remove his gaze. He wasn't even sure if what he saw was real, but he didn't care, even if the hero in front turned and saw him run into the alley alone, for he would complete the task he came here for. He would be the one to find and bring down the hero killer. Deep in the alleyway out of view from the streets, Stain looked up to the large clouds of smoke and fire rising in the distance from him. The assassin gritted his teeth in annoyance to the sudden ruckus that had fallen over the city. DMN that. Shigaraki. He went through this trouble just because he had his feelings hurt. I'll have to dispose of those fools later. For now, though, his gaze drifted back to the hero he had pinned to the wall by his head, the Native American dressed man bleeding from his arm. You will be the next fake I cleanse from this world. The hero native felt his entire body locked in place, his eyes trembling as he watched the sword being lifted into the air. Even so, the pinned man glared through to the hero killer. Why, you won't get away with this. You'll be dead. Hissing to what he heard, Stain squeezed the hilt of his blade tighter. If you call yourself a hero, you should choose your last words carefully. Then, a sudden burst of sound echoed in the alley, the hero killer swinging his sword backwards to the figure trying to sneak attack him from behind. His blade connected hard into metal and causing the incoming figure to fall back. Stain glanced down to the newcomer in white armor, the figure's helmet fallen off and revealing to his surprise a young blue-haired teen. A kid? Crawling back up, Tenya's eyes locked onto the figure in front of him. He took in the ragged clothes over him, the blood-colored rags, and the dozens of blades littered across his body. He knew for certain this was the man. He found him. It's you, Tenya hissed out, his brow furrowing in anger. Stain eyed the boy curiously, noticing the glare he was receiving before scoffing. This is no place for kids to play dress up. Go on home now. I have been looking for you. You're the hero killer, aren't you? Tenya's teeth clenched together as he crawled back to his feet. I have been waiting to finally come face to face with Dash. His words were stifled by the sword pointed right at his face, the hero killer narrowing his eyes at the teen. Your eyes are filled with vengeance. I would watch the words you say, even a child can become my target. Your target, Tenya's fists clenched as those images flashed back into his mind. You attacked my brother here in this city. And now, I am here to bring you down. I am the one continuing my brother's name. I am Ingenium, and I will defeat you. Is that so? Stain sighed in disappointment to what he heard. In that case die. Tenya yelled out in fury as he tried to burst off the ground, but his eyes went wide as the hero killer moved in unreal speed and knocked his leg back to the ground before leaping into the air above him. You are Ingenium's brother, I see, Stain chuckled out in amusement. I should have guessed by your matching costumes. In the blink of an eye, Stain's spike-lined boot slammed into Tenya's shoulder. Ida gasped out in pain from the steel piercing his armor and laying him out flat on his back. He tried to flip around and crawl back up, but a heavy foot slammed hard into his back, pressing him flat to the concrete. Stain simply sighed in amusement to the youngster's attempt to get back up. I let your brother live so that he could pass on the message. Any of the imposters that walk these streets can be my next target, even one as famous as him. And I look at you now, Stain pointed the sword down towards the teen. You are weak just like your brother. Tenya screamed out in pain as the sword was buried into his shoulder, piercing all the way through and to the ground below. He trembled from the searing sensation, but his glare never left his face. My brother was an amazing man. He helped so many people, and you paralyzed him. He can never walk again. I'll kill you for that. You are blinded by your anger, kid. You came all the way here to make yourself feel better, is that it? Coming after me for a personal grudge is as far away from a hero as I can tell. Stain scolded him as if he were a teacher, shifting the sword and causing Tenya to yell out. You are nothing more than a poser in a costume. Tears of pain and hatred fell from Tenya's eyes as he laid there, his teeth clenched so hard he almost felt them crack. You have no right to judge me. You are a criminal, and I will be the one to defeat you. Shouldn't you be worried about saving that guy? Stain snickered as he looked to the hero laying still against the wall. You call yourself a hero, and yet someone is right in front of you and you didn't see him. Your anger has blinded you from what a true hero would have wanted to do. Stain ripped the sword out from his captive's shoulder and brought it to his face. And now it is clear you have no purpose in this world. Smiling, he flicked his tongue out and licked the BLD on the blade. Instantly, a powerful sensation fell over Tenya's body, every muscle in his body locking up. I can't move, he stuttered out as the hero killer stepped off his back. Against the wall, Native could only watch in despair as the teen who came was now on the ground as the hero killer raised his sword once again. No, please not him. He's only a kid, he pleaded. Stain ignored the cries as he pointed the sword at his victim. Goodbye, child. Let your BLD be another cleansing to this world of fakes. Say what you want, but that doesn't change what you are. Tenya screamed out. You're still just a killer. A criminal who hurt my brother. Stain was ready to end the child on the ground, but the sudden move knocked him clear against the wall of the alley. A grunt could be heard from impact. Tenya's mouth fell open in shock when the new figure hurriedly walked up in front of him, the red hair and outfit making his eyes go wide. Kekayama. His classmate, the class representative, was standing in front of him, hands glowing pink as she took a defensive stance. Why was she here? Don't worry, Ida, help has arrived. Blossom called out as she stood between his friend and the fallen killer. I was just helping Ed Shot evacuate the people. I felt a familiar dark presence. Could it be Dash? Kayama, I can't move. He licked my BLD and now I can't get up. Ida grunted out, causing Blossom's eyes to go wide. What? She looked back to the now standing assassin, staring her down. I guess it's not him after all, she internally sighed. I read about things like that, types of quirks that need BLD to work. She could not help the disgusted look plastered across her face. Stain hissed out in annoyance and rubbed the area of his chest he got hit on, surprised by the force of the attack the kid showed. He then raised an eyebrow when he recognized the new teenager as one of the girls from Mr. X's photos. So, you are one of those allmight wannabes, huh kid? Stain called out as he stepped forward. You came to save your friend, but also unwittingly came to be tested. Blossom did not understand what he meant by that, but nonetheless glared at the opponent before her. You must be Stain, the hero killer, she addressed him disdainfully. I've read about you. You're infamous for your twisted ideology and brutal methods. But your reign of terror ends here. Blossom's voice held firm resolve as she squared off against Stain, her hands still glowing at the ready. She had not much to go when it came to Stain's fighting style or tricks, knowing that, facing him would be a dangerous but necessary situation. Stain regarded Blossom with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Bold words for someone so young, he remarked coldly. You heroes are all the same, thinking you can judge who deserves to live or die. I don't claim to judge, Blossom retorted, her eyes narrowing. But I do claim to protect. That's why I'm here. Stain chuckled darkly. Protect, you say? Let's see. If you can back up your words with action, you a student. With that, Stain lunged forward, his movements swift and deadly. Blossom reacted instantly, unleashing a barrage of telekinetic strikes. Stain fluidly dodged them with his heightened reflexes and agility. He closed in, aiming his sword at Blossom's neck. She barely managed to dodge the strike, then improvised by calling upon nearby bricks and launching them headfast at the hero killer. Stain demonstrated his swordsmanship, slashing through the bricks that came at him. Suddenly, Blossom surrounded Stain in a pink glow, lifting him above the ground. Gotcha ya, she exclaimed victoriously. However, her victory was short-lived. Stain wildly struggled through the hold, and Blossom found it strangely hard to maintain her grip. It was then that Stain's eyes glowed with a familiar but ominous green light, causing her own glow to fade and losing her hold on him, as he landed back on the ground. A heavy silence hung in the air as Blossom was stunned by the turn of events, sensing something unsettlingly familiar. The green glow abruptly left Stain's eyes, replaced by a sneer as he looked at her. Kayama, get out of here, Tenya clenched his teeth in anger. This is my battle. It has nothing to do with you. Hearing that, her stunned silence left, replaced by anger. Your battle. You knew you would actually fight this guy. All Ida could do was hold his determined glare at that. A maniacal laugh bellowed out, catching the attention of the three individuals. You see why I've made it my mission to purge this world of fake heroes? Stain's voice dripped with contempt as he scowled, raising his sword towards Ida. He's nothing more than a child pretending to be a hero. He couldn't even save the hero who was clearly injured. Instead, he seeks revenge for his pathetic excuse of a hero brother. Ida shook with rage. Shut up. You're a monster. You don't deserve to live for putting my brother out of commission. I am hero and that's why I came to fight you. Ida's voice boomed with fury, his fists clenched tightly at his sides. The accusation cut deep, striking at the core of his determination and sense of justice. Stain's words were like daggers, aimed not just at him but at everything he believed in as a hero. Blossom could clearly see the revenge-filled emotion in his eyes, like dark pools of hate and pain. She suddenly felt the same presence lurking around. That presence, it couldn't be Blossom was brought out of her thoughts, the moment Stain was coming in close-up, she caught a sword coming in for her face. She held the sword with the strength she could give, her mind suddenly clouded with the fear and adrenaline flowing through her body. He leaned in, he said that you and your sisters had something akin to potential. I think Mr. X was just a fool. His words made Blossom's blood run cold. Mr. X, that was the only thought that passed through her mind. As quick as a lightning, Stain thrusted the sword to the side, causing her to be caught off balance, and Stain took the opportunity to grab her by the neck. Moments thrashing to the break free, Stain, with frightening strength, threw her against the wall. A loud thud was heard as she sprawled across the ground. Stain grunted as he stood back and walked up to Ida. Your moves are impressive, but you are no all might. Why? Mr. X thought differently. I will never know nor care. There are a lot of false heroes crawling these streets, but you may be worth letting live. I can sense something coming from you. It will be interesting to see what you become. Him, however, is only a plague that has infested this world. Blossom was slowly coming to, but was horrified on what's to happen. Stain stood over Tenya once more, his sword raised above the teen's head. Ida's eyes flickered with fear. Just when Stain was about strike, he suddenly halted. What the hell? He muttered to himself in confusion. Just then a familiar voice rang through his head. What are you doing? Get rid of the girl first. The sudden halt confused Ida. Before Stain could even resist further. Get away from him. The sudden scream down the alleyway brought Stain's gaze up once more, his eyes widening as he swung his sword up and shattered several ice spikes before they could land. Taking advantage of Stain's distraction, a powerful punch sent him reeling back, grunting in annoyance as two more teens ran down the alley. More of these punks are here. Blossom's mouth hung open in shock before relief came over her, amazed at who had showed up. Midoriya, Todoroki, she managed to yell out in surprise that they must have been close by. Midoriya, wide-eyed, made no delay and quickly went over to grab Blossom. His quirk activated, causing him to blitz past Stain while he was confused. Midoriya, Todoroki? Tenya stuttered out in disbelief. What are you doing here? Just like you, we are also stupidly going up against the hero killer. Todoroki yelled back at him as he unleashed ice spikes at the hero killer, causing Ida to grit his teeth. Stain swiftly evaded Todoroki's ice spikes, his movements fluid and precise despite the surprise attack. He countered with a swift slash of his sword, forcing Todoroki to dodge backwards to avoid being struck. This is my battle, Ida's voice reverberated, laden with sorrow and determination. I'm here to avenge my brother, Ingenium. Midoriya Izuku, still holding on to Blossom, had his gaze flickering with concern, moved closer to his friend. Ida, we understand your pain, but, before Midoriya could finish, Todoroki's voice cuts through the tense air like shards of ice. Do you think your brother would have wanted this, Ida? To seek vengeance instead of justice? To stupidly put your life at risk, just to get yourself killed? What would he say to that? Todoroki's words struck deep into Ida's heart, stirring a tumultuous storm of emotions. He had set out on this perilous mission driven by grief and a longing for retribution, but now faced with Todoroki's piercing question, doubt crept in. Stain, observing the emotional turmoil within Ida, sneered mockingly. Ah, the righteousness of youth, he taunted, his voice dripping with disdain. But tell me, can vengeance truly be the mark of a hero? Without warning, Stain lunged forward with lethal precision, drawing 3 of his daggers from his belt. The weapons flew through the air with deadly accuracy, aimed at disrupting the hero's resolve. Todoroki reacted swiftly, conjuring walls of ice to intercept the projectiles, but one dagger found its mark, dug into Todoroki's arm and drew blood. Before Stain could even come close to activating his quirk, Izuku sprang into action with remarkable agility, fueled by the power of One for All. He launched himself toward Stain, delivering a rapid series of kicks aimed at exploiting weaknesses in Stain's defense. Each strike was precise and calculated, knocking the villain back with added damage. Blossom, getting back to her feet, guys, I will get Ida and Native Hero out of here, she said, for which the others readily agreed. With mustered control, she lifted up Native Hero in a pink glow, sending him away. She was about to take Ida. No. I can't go until I avenge my brother, Ida protested, tears streaming down his face. Blossom paused, her expression a mix of concern and determination. I understand how you feel, Ida, she said firmly, her voice unwavering despite the chaos around them. But right now, your safety is what matters most. I need to get you and native hero out of here. You're hurt and we need to fall back. Stain is too dangerous to face alone. Ida hesitated, torn between his longing for vengeance and the logic in Blossom's words. The battle raging around them underscored the urgency of the situation. Midoriya and Todoroki continued to engage Stain, their movements a synchronized dance of offense and defense. Stain, undeterred by their attacks, countered with calculated strikes, his agility and skill making him a formidable opponent. Each clash sent sparks flying, the clash of quirks echoing through the alleyway. Despite their efforts, Stain seemed to anticipate their moves, his experience in combat evident in every precise maneuver. Midoriya, his mind racing with strategies, glanced back at Ida. Ida, you have to go, he urged, his voice laced with determination. Your brother would want you to live. Stain won't go down easily. Ida clenched his fists, a storm of conflicting emotions raging within him. Finally, with a nod of reluctant acceptance, he turned to Blossom. Okay, let's get out of here, he said, his voice tinged with frustration and sorrow. Blossom nodded in agreement, her resolve unwavering. With a focused concentration, she enveloped Ida in her telekinetic glow and swiftly lifted him from the battlefield. As they retreated to a safer distance, she kept a watchful eye on Midoriya and Todoroki, hoping they could hold their ground against the relentless hero killer. Meanwhile, Midoriya and Todoroki continued to press forward, their teamwork becoming more coordinated with each passing moment. Todoroki summoned walls of ice to shield against Stain's relentless attacks, while Midoriya utilized his agility and one for all to deliver swift, calculated blows. Stain, sensing the tide turning against him, grew more aggressive. He lunged forward with renewed intensity, aiming to break through their defenses. With a flick of his wrist, he unleashed a flurry of daggers, each aimed at exploiting any opening in their guard. Midoriya's reflexes kicked into overdrive as he dodged and weaved through the deadly onslaught. Todoroki, his arms still throbbing from the earlier wound, gritted his teeth and summoned a torrent of flames to counter Stain's onslaught. The alleyway became a battleground of elemental forces, ice colliding with fire, while Stain's sword danced through the chaos with deadly precision. Each clash sent shockwaves through the air, the sound of metal against quirk echoing through the night. Then, a chilling sensation erupted in her body, his body tightening. Stain's vision became a blur as he swayed. The same merciless voice crept back in, "Hello Kaizo Makaguro, I have grown tired of this, so I have decided that it is times to pay up," the voice taunted, cold and tinged with amusement. Stain's eyes widened with confusion and anger. What are you doing?" he demanded, his voice strained with defiance and disbelief. "Get out of my head." He thrashed onto the ground, feeling as if his mind was being pushed aside. "Oh, don't be like that, I warned you of the price, so step aside, hero killer. It's my turn to have some fun." "What's happening to him?" Todoroki exclaimed in shock, momentarily distracted by the unexpected turn of events. Midoriya's brow furrowed in concern as he watched Stain struggle. Is this due to his quirk, he wondered aloud, his mind racing to make sense of the situation. Before they could react, Stain's body convulsed with spasms, him, now fully in control, addressed the heroes with mocking delight. Well, he chuckled, his voice dripping with malice. "It seems I have a new toy to play with," his gaze fixated on Izuku and Todoroki, who felt a chill run down their spines. Fear and dread gripped them as they unknowingly faced a creature that would be a turning point in their lives. Blossom, hovering nearby with Ida, gasped in horror as she recognized the voice. "No, it can't be," she whispered to herself. Midoriya and Todoroki exchanged a glance, their faces etched with concern and confusion. "What the hell is this? Who are you?" he demanded, his voice tinged with urgency and defiance. The voice chuckled darkly, reveling in the chaos it had wrought. "Call me Mr. X," it teased, the words dripping with menace. "But you won't be around much longer to ask questions." As the battle reached its crescendo, Mr. X wielded Stain's formidable body with a supernatural grace, striking at Izuku and Todoroki with blinding speed and lethal precision. Despite their valiant efforts, the two heroes found themselves outmatched against the relentless onslaught. Izuku's eyes widened with determination as he evaded a flurry of attacks, his mind racing for a strategy. "Todoroki, we have to," he began, but before he could finish his thought, disaster struck. A crimson beam erupted from Stain's eyes, casting a sinister glow that enveloped both Izuku and Todoroki. Paralysis and pain seized their bodies with startling efficiency, locking their muscles in place. They collapsed to the ground, helpless and unable to move, their minds racing even as their bodies betrayed them. The rising pain boggled their minds. Blossom's heart pounded in her chest as she watched her friends ensnared by Stain's newfound ability. Her hands glowed on automatic, fueled by the fear for their safety. "I won't let you harm them," she declared fiercely, charging forward, much to the warning of Ida, her voice carrying a steely resolve amidst the chaos that surrounded them. With a focused effort, Blossom unleashed a torrent of telekinetic strikes and blasts toward Stain, now a puppet under the malevolent influence of Mr. X. But to her dismay, him anticipated every move, blocking each attack with Sword of the Hero Killer. His mocking grin widened, relishing the emotional turmoil he inflicted. "Is that the best you can do, little hero?" he taunted, his voice dripping with derision. "Your feeble attempts won't save them." Blossom gritted her teeth, frustration mounting as her attacks continued to miss their mark. Him's control over Stain seemed absolute, his movements enhanced by an unnatural strength and agility. Blossom's mind raced with strategies, but every move she came up with, was foiled by her own fears. "You're weak, just like your sisters," him taunted, his words a calculated strike aimed at Blossom's resolve. "Without them, what hope do you have of defeating me?" Blossom's fists clenched, pushing herself to her limits to protect her friends. She launched herself into another series of attacks, combining telekinetic blasts, ice breaths, and I-beams in a desperate bid to break through Stain's defenses. Yet him remained unfazed, effortlessly deflecting or evading each assault. As the battle raged on, Blossom felt the weight of exhaustion creeping in. Her muscles burned with fatigue, her mind racing for a way to turn the tide. Him continued to mock and taunt, reveling in the PPG's growing fatigue. He took this opening. Stain's hand was enveloped in a red-black energy. "Time to say bye," shot a blast of the energy at the weakened girl. Blossom, feeling the strain in her body, decided to try and face it on. But just as the beams were about to make contact, Ida, battered but out, had jumped in the way of the attack. He took the attack with a pain-filled grunt. Blossom hurriedly checked over his arm, and though the metal took the brunt of it, the effects were still devastating. Blossom's eyes widened in shock as Ida took the brunt of the attack meant for her. He collapsed to the ground, his body trembling with pain, but a small smile played on his lips. "I am sorry for this," he managed to say before darkness claimed him. Blossom looked around at the chaos and devastation, tears welling in her eyes. She felt the weight of responsibility, of the guilt, crushing down on her shoulders. Him laughed wickedly, his voice echoing with malice. "You heroes are so predictable," he sneered. "Weak and easily manipulated argh." But before him could finish his gloating, a sudden blast of laser I-beam struck him point-blank, sending him staggering back. He recovered quickly. "Why, you little BRT," his anger evident as he faced Blossom, who now floated above them, surrounded by a pink aura, her hair whipping around her in a storm and eyes aglow with growing fury. "You will pay for what you've done," Blossom vowed, her voice resonating with a righteous anger that burned like a beacon in the night. She summoned the debris she could call upon, unleashed a relentless barrage of telekinetic blasts and focused beams towards him, each attack fueled by her anger and guilt for her unknowingly hand in this. Him dodged and countered with his own flurry of attacks, the battle escalating into a fierce exchange of powers and wills. Blossom's resolve hardened with every strike, refusing to yield to him's cruel manipulations. She heightened her speed, each strike was quick and precise. Focused her powers with pinpoint accuracy, aiming for vulnerabilities in his defense or most likely, the human form he took. With each blow that landed, Blossom sensed him's borrowed body weakening. His movements became more sluggish, his once precise dodges faltering under the onslaught of her relentless attacks. Blossom saw the strain in Stain's eyes, a flicker of the possessed man's fatigue taking over. Stain staggered back, his breaths labored as he struggled to maintain his composure. Blossom's instinct seized the opportunity, summoning her strength for a final, decisive attack. She gathered her power into a concentrated beam of energy, channeling all her resolve and fury into the strike. The aura shot out and engulfed the puppet, twisted the chaos harbinger within. The attack caused a scream to come out and that left a tired mess. Oh well, shame that you can't revel in what you could really do. A nice performance, Blossom, him silently chuckled, his voice contrary to the present state of the body, was still lively and unfazed, although little Powerpuff, it is just the beginning of the main act, a mocking smirk now came out. Blossom's eyes narrowed, her voice unwavering as she confronted the malevolent entity before her. "We'll stop you," she declared, her tone resolute and defiant. "No matter what." And with that, him departed, leaving an unconscious Stain collapsing to the ground. Fortunately for Blossom, her fatigue waned over her mind, releasing the form that she called. She turned her attention to where Stain's body lay, his form now devoid of him's malevolent presence. She sensed no trace of the sinister entity that had manipulated him, only the stillness of defeat. But as Blossom's adrenaline subsided, the weariness caught up with her. Her vision blurred, and a wave of dizziness washed over her. With a sudden, overwhelming fatigue, the world seemed to spin around her. Everything faded to black, and with a soft thud, Blossom collapsed a distance from Stain, unconscious. In the cover of the night, a lone figure stood perched atop a neighboring building, their presence obscured by the cloak of darkness. From their vantage point, they watched silently as the tumultuous battle unfolded below. In the quiet of the morning, sunlight filtered through the hospital room, casting a serene ambience upon Blossom as she stirred from grogginess. The walls glowed in soft hues of pale yellow, starkly contrasting the clinical white surroundings. Her head pulsed with a lingering ache, a reminder of the intense battle with Stain and the haunting presence of him. As consciousness slowly returned, Blossom cautiously tried to sit up, feeling stiffness in her limbs. Memories of the confrontation flooded her mind, stirring a mix of relief and worry. With anxious eyes scanning the room, she sought any sign of her friends, hoping for their safety after the night's events. "Where am I?" she mumbled to herself. "Blossom?" Izuku's voice broke the silence, drawing her attention towards the beds where her classmates lay. She blinked, trying to orient herself in the hospital room. "Izuku Todoroki Ida." Her words were laced with fatigue as she sought confirmation that they were all right after the ordeal. Her friends and classmates were all wrapped in bandages, indicating their injuries. Todoroki's left arm was heavily bandaged, a stark reminder of the battle they had fought. "Hey, Blossom, you're finally awake. How are you feeling?" Izuku's voice cut through the quiet of the hospital room, filled with concern. Just sore. Might need more sleep," Blossom replied with a small, tired smile. She glanced over at Tenya and Todoroki in the beds beside her, relieved to see them mostly recovered despite their injuries. "How about you two? Are you okay?" "Yeah, just sore as well," Todoroki responded stoically, while Ida nodded in agreement. The room lapsed into an uncomfortable silence, tension palpable in the air. Sensing the unease, Izuku took a deep breath. "Blossom, I wanted to say thank you," he began earnestly, catching Blossom off guard. "If it wasn't for your help back there, I don't think we would have made it out alive," he admitted, his expression serious. Blossom stared at Izuku for a moment before turning her gaze to Ida, who appeared weighed down by guilt. "Ida." He lowered his head, remorse clear in his voice. "I'm sorry I put you all in danger, not thinking of the consequences of my Ida, there's no need to apologize, Izuku interrupted firmly. I understand why you did what you did. But it was still pretty risky and dangerous, Todoroki interjected bluntly. You're lucky Kayama was there to help you. Yeah, you're right, Ida murmured, visibly crestfallen. Todoroki then shifted his gaze to Blossom, prompting her to recall the events of the previous day. She remained composed outwardly, though inside, the memories weighed heavily, especially the presence of him. It was a close call, that fight, Izuku reflected thoughtfully. Things could have gone much worse if the circumstances were different. Blossom's stomach churned with unease as she recalled the harrowing danger they had faced and the malevolent force that had manipulated Stain. She couldn't shake off the lingering tension that hung in the air. Indeed, Ida nodded gravely, turning to his female classmate. Kayama, I apologize once again and thank you for saving me. Your skills yesterday were that of a true hero, something that I am not, he said, his voice tinged with dismay. Before anyone could respond, the door swung open, drawing their attention. Manuel entered first, followed by Gran Torino, who scanned the room with his sharp eyes. Well, it seems you kids are awake now at least, he remarked, his gaze lingering briefly on Blossom. It's Gran Torino. Izuku exclaimed in surprise. And Manuel, too, Ida added timidly. What are you doing here? Midoriya asked, sitting up with curiosity. What am I doing here? You know I could yell at you the whole day for the stunt you pulled, the elder hero scolded the boy. Izuku sheepishly apologized, and Gran Torino sighed, crossing his short arms. But before I do we had to be here because of you kids. And he wants a word with you. To Blossom's astonishment, a man with a dog's head entered the room. This is Hosu's chief of police, Kenji Tsuragami, Gran Torino introduced. The sudden stiffening of her classmates' postures made it clear that the man before Blossom commanded respect. Just hearing his title, Chief of Police, was enough to instill a sense of caution in her. Chief of Police? Izuku exclaimed in disbelief. Kenji grunted and walked forward to the others, looking at all of their injuries. Well, it appears you kids had quite the night. You ended up facing a true criminal. Tenya looked down in shame, knowing he was the one who led everyone into that alley. He looked back up as the chief scratched his nose. The police has restrained the hero killer and taken him into custody. Given our investigation, the villain has received quite a number of injuries, namely, burns, broken bones and, psychological damage, it seems, a knowing glint in the man's eye. It was quite fortunate you kids were not seriously hurt. However, we have to now discuss what is to happen to you now for what occurred. The group of teens looked to one another in confusion. Sir, what do you mean? Tenya asked. Without wasting time, Kenji proceeded to address the group, his expression unreadable but stern. These laws were created to maintain peace and order in the streets. Regardless of the circumstances against the hero killer, using quirks without proper licenses or authorization is a serious offense. What? Shoto shouted in disbelief. You can't be serious. Blossom glared up at the tall chief, but did her best to compose herself. Given the gravity of the situation, a hero was about to be murdered. If my classmate, Ida, had not stepped in, that would have been a definite possibility. I can speak for my classmates, saying that we had to step in or both of them would have been dead. Kenji narrowed his eyes at Blossom. Using powers on another person is a serious offense. Without the proper paperwork or license, anyone claiming to be doing the right thing could start a whole mess of trouble. Hold on, Izuku stood up, frowning at the chief. If Blossom didn't stop the hero killer, he would have ended up killing both Ida and Native. She is the one who saved all of us. Are you saying we are supposed to just sit and watch others die? Are you saying it's okay to break the law as long as it works out for you? Kenji retorted firmly. What? Isn't it a hero's job to save others? Shoto growled out in anger, earning a sigh from the chief. This is why you kids aren't pros yet. You should have Endeavor teach you more DSPLN, Kenji remarked coolly, his gaze shifting to Todoroki. Shoto gritted his teeth in anger at that statement. UDMN mutt. I can't believe you. It was Gran Torino who intervened, calming Todoroki and allowing him to hear out the chief. What I've said is the official stance of the police. Punishments could follow if this were to go public, the chief added, garnering another round of confused looks from the teens. However, given the circumstances and the injuries sustained by the hero killer, we can attribute his capture to Endeavor and Edgeshot. You won't receive commendation for what happened, unfortunately, but that also means no mark will be put on your records. Personally, I know where I stand. I don't want to derail any promising young careers over a mistake like this, he concluded with a slight smirk and a thumbs up. Either way, we will need to take responsibility for being negligent as supervisors, Manuel added solemnly. Tenya took a deep breath and walked up to Manuel, bowing deeply. I'm sorry, sir. I caused so much trouble for you. Manuel chuckled and gave a small chop to the back of the teen's head. You caused me a lot of grief, kid. But glad you are fine now. Kenji then was the one who lowered himself into a deep bow. Despite everything that happened to you all, let me be the one to say thank you for what you did. Blossom, despite her fatigue and soreness, couldn't help but smile faintly at the gesture. A little nostalgic at the scene. Shoto grunted and looked away. You could have started with that then. Midoriya chuckled softly and rubbed his head. I guess we're good now. Gran Torino snickered. You youngsters sure are a handful. Consider yourselves lucky everything turned out a dash. But before he could finish, suddenly, the door swung open with a loud bang, causing everyone in the hospital room to startle and turn their heads. Chief Kenji, and the two pro-heroes stood frozen in surprise as Buttercup charged in, her voice cutting through the air like a thunderclap. Blossom, what the hell? She shouted, her tone a mix of anger as she rushed over to her sister's bedside. Her presence in a nurse's uniform added an unexpected twist to the already tense atmosphere, catching everyone off guard. Izuku's eyes widened in shock at Buttercup's sudden appearance, his mouth agape as he struggled to process the scene unfolding before him. Todoroki and Ida were rendered speechless, their expressions ranging from bewilderment to apprehension, unsure of how to react to Buttercup's outburst. Blossom, still recovering from the events of the previous day, could only manage a weak, Buttercup, what are you? Buttercup's focus remained squarely on Blossom, ignoring the others in the room. You have a lot of explaining to do, Red, she declared firmly, her gaze piercing as she waited for Blossom's response. Suddenly, a once calm atmosphere has now been replaced with confusion and slight fear. After explaining to the pro-heroes and chief of police that the girl was a classmate and unfortunately one of Blossom's sisters, they were all excused with the reminder to not let any of the information leak out of here. That garnered a raised eyebrow from Buttercup, but before she could dig for answers, she was forcefully pulled out by a suddenly healthy Blossom. Blossom and Buttercup then found a place to have a conversation, or in these two's case, a little low-rise shouting match. You fought the freaking hero killer and he was him? Buttercup yelled out, only stopped by a hand to her mouth. Yes, Blossom hissed out, but as far as the world knows, it was done by Edgeshot and Endeavor. No glory or recognition goes to us if I and the rest of our classmates want to remain at UA, she said evenly. Buttercup forcefully shoved her hand away. Geez, not even a medal or parade. These people sure don't want to admit their stupid system is flawed, huh, she said sarcastically. Blossom sighed in exasperation. Relax, Red, I get it. Sheesh. Then Buttercup did something uncharacteristic. But honestly, Blossom, how are you holding up there, especially after everything that happened? Buttercup's voice was unusually calm, filled with concern, empathy, and warmth that Blossom would expect from Bubbles, not her middle sister. Rarely, if ever, would she expect Buttercup to act like this. Blossom looked up, her expression unwavering. The floodgates opened, and the memories of yesterday and this morning hit her hard. With tears in her eyes, Blossom told Buttercup everything about the battle, him's involvement, the moments she felt powerless, her classmates possibly seeing her and him's suspicious interaction, and using her powered form on Stain. She admitted that if she hadn't been so tired, she wouldn't have been able to disengage. At the end of it, Buttercup just rubbed her sister's back as she cried. Like herself, Blossom didn't like showing tears or weakness freely, being the leader she is. She's not as opposed to it as Buttercup, but when she does weep, it hits hard. There, Red. I understand now. You did everything you could in an impossible situation. You're still the tough leader we all look up to, Buttercup said softly, her voice filled with genuine empathy. Grateful for her sister's understanding, Blossom nodded. Thanks, Buttercup. I needed to get that off my chest. I'm glad you did, Buttercup replied, offering a small, reassuring smile. You know we're all here for you, right? Bubbles, me, and Midnight. You don't have to worry, stiff head, she playfully added, which made Blossom chuckle a little. Okay, Red, enough of the mushiness. You're snotting up my uniform, Buttercup said, ending her empathetic moment. Blossom gave her a weird look. What? Buttercup shot back, slightly annoyed. Blossom blinked. Buttercup, not that it's weird or anything, but why are you wearing a nurse's uniform again? This time, she couldn't stifle her giggles. Buttercup responded with a glare and punches to Blossom's arm, not too lethal but enough to get her point across. Why you, she growled. Okay, Blossom pleaded, trying to suppress her remaining laughter. But seriously, Buttercup, what are you doing here? I would think if you had gone to Hosu, it would have been to tell me you didn't run away from Recovery Girl just to fight bad guys, she pointedly asked. Buttercup rolled her eyes. Seems like you're back to your high and mighty attitude, huh, Red? Buttercup, Blossom pressed, eyes narrowed in impatience. Sheesh, fine, I'll tell you. Don't get your bow in a bunch, she replied, then proceeded to explain her ongoing internship. Days earlier. In the bustling corridors of UA Academy where heroes in training hurried with anticipation and ambition, Buttercup stomped down the hall, her green eyes narrowed in annoyance. She had been reluctantly assigned to intern with Recovery Girl, a prospect that grated against her instinctive need for action and battle. After seeing her sisters and friends off at the train, Midnight personally escorted her to the school, emphasizing the importance of the administrative paperwork that awaited her. As she reached the door to Recovery Girl's office, Buttercup muttered under her breath, "This better be worth my time." With a sigh, she pushed open the door and entered the cluttered office, her briefcase containing her hero suit slung over her shoulder. Recovery Girl, whose real name was Chiyo Shuzenji, was waiting patiently amidst shelves filled with medical texts and hero memorabilia. Despite her small stature, Chiyo exuded immense wisdom and experience, having seen heroes rise and fall, understanding the delicate balance between power and responsibility. As Buttercup entered, Chiyo greeted her with a warm smile that contrasted sharply with Buttercup's scowl. "Ah, Buttercup, right on time," Chiyo said cheerfully, motioning for Buttercup to take a seat. "So, you're here for your crash course in hero nursing. I hope you brought your patients along." Her voice carried a hint of amusement. "Not like had much of a choice here," she groaned to herself. Buttercup flopped into the chair, crossing her arms defiantly. "Look, Granny," she began, emphasizing the nickname, "I get that you're good at patching people up. But what can you possibly teach me about fighting? I've got all the power I need right here." She clenched her fists, crackling with plasma energy, as if to emphasize her point. Recovery Girl chuckled softly, her eyes twinkling with a knowing glint. "Oh, dear Buttercup, there's more to being a hero than just punching bad guys. Power without control is like a raging fire, it can consume everything in its path, including yourself." Buttercup scowled, her impatience evident. "I don't need lessons in control. I can handle myself just fine." Chiyo leaned forward, her tone gentle but firm. "Being a hero isn't just about throwing punches, Buttercup," she said sagely. It's about understanding the aftermath of those punches, about helping others heal and recover. That's where your training starts. With that, she gathered a whole stack of books. Buttercup's expression darkened at the sight of the textbooks. What? Studies? She groaned in frustration, her frustration echoing through the office. Chio chuckled again, her demeanor unwavering. Yes, studies, she affirmed. Understanding the human body, knowing how injuries affect heroes and civilians alike, that's crucial for any hero worth their salt. But I want to be out there, fighting villains, not reading books and folding bandages, Buttercup protested, her tone bordering on exasperation. Chio's smile softened, her gaze steady. And you will, Buttercup, she assured her. But first, you need to learn patience and control. Trust me, it'll make you a better hero. Buttercup slumped back in her chair, clearly unconvinced. Fine, she muttered reluctantly. But don't expect me to enjoy it. Chio chuckled softly. I don't expect you to enjoy everything, Buttercup, she replied with a hint of sass. But I do expect you to learn. Next hours coupled with reading and lectures, Chio's explanations on anatomy, the physiology of quirks, and the intricacies of hero injuries. Buttercup often sat with crossed arms, occasionally rolling her eyes or huffing impatiently. You've got to be kidding me, Buttercup muttered, flipping through a dense medical textbook. Do I really need to know the exact number of bones in the human body? Chio glanced over with a knowing smirk. Well, Buttercup, knowing your enemy's weaknesses is key, she remarked slyly. Unless you plan on crushing all your opponents with sheer force. She assisted Chio in treating minor injuries among UA students' bruises, sprains, and minor burns. She learned the delicate art of using her healing light, Recovery Girl having seen abilities like hers, discovering its soothing effects and its different effects on levels on intense injuries. This is taking forever, Buttercup muttered one afternoon, applying a bandage to a student's arm. I could have knocked out 10 villains by now. Chio glanced at her with a raised eyebrow. Healing isn't about speed, Buttercup, she remarked calmly. It's about care, precision, and giving your patient the time they need to recover fully. But what if they need to get back into action quickly? Buttercup argued, her impatience clear in her voice. Chio sighed, but her expression softened. Every injury requires different treatment. Some can be healed quickly, but others take time. As a hero, it's your responsibility to assess the situation and act accordingly. Buttercup frowned, but a thoughtful look crossed her face. I guess it's like fighting, she conceded reluctantly. You can't always rush in and expect everything to go your way. Chio smiled warmly. Exactly, Buttercup. Healing is just another form of heroism. Sometimes, the most heroic thing you can do is help someone recover. The next morning followed with another round of lectures, practice sessions in power control, and hands-on experience in healing. Buttercup's initial reluctance slowly gave way to grudging acceptance. The whole ordeal reminded her of when she was younger, after the incident, and she had the help she needed. Buttercup was just going another one of her mentor's big O textbooks, geez. By the time I'm done, I will be a bigger nerd than Red, she playfully scoffed at her thoughts. Just then, Recovery Girl entered the room with her phone to her ear, wrapping up a conversation. Yes, oh thank you, dear. That would be greatly appreciated. Alright, see you then, she said, ending the call before turning her attention to Buttercup. Change of plans, whippersnapper. We're taking a little field trip, she announced with a mischievous twinkle in her eye, which immediately made Buttercup skeptical. Buttercup rolled her eyes playfully. Yeah. As long as there aren't too many dumb books, Granny. Recovery Girl chuckled warmly. Oh dearie, you'll learn more than you bargained for, Buttercup. And reading has its benefits, you know. The situation took an unexpected turn when Chio announced a visit to Hosu General Hospital. Buttercup bristled at the thought of more mundane tasks, but Chio insisted it was an essential part of her training. So, what's the plan? More bandages and bedpans. Couldn't we just stay here? Not that I'm complaining to get away from the books, Buttercup remarked sarcastically. Chio chuckled softly. Not quite. And don't worry, I'll bring a book or two, she teased, which was met with an audible groan from Buttercup. Today, you're going to see the impact of heroism up close, she added cryptically. Buttercup moved to retrieve her hero uniform, but was stopped abruptly. Hold on, dearie, since we're going to the hospital, you'll be under me as my assistant. That means you'll need to wear this instead, Recovery Girl said, producing a knee-length white nurse dress from her belongings. Oh hell no. I am not wearing that. Why can't I just wear a lab coat over my hero suit or something? Buttercup protested, eyeing the uniform with disdain. I'm not wearing that. Lab coats are meant for higher professionals like scientists or doctors. As a non-licensed practitioner and intern studying under me for now, you'll need to wear this, Chio replied, raising an eyebrow with a twinkle of mischief in her eyes. And what's wrong with showing a little respect for the patients and the profession, she countered, her tone teasing yet firm. Buttercup grumbled, but reluctantly changed into the uniform under Chio's amused gaze. After informing Buttercup's guardian and receiving clearance, the two set off for Hosu City. During the journey, Recovery Girl briefed Buttercup on the city's high danger and injury rates. Chio emphasized that their visit was part of a lesson plan focused on healing demonstrations rather than battling, much to Buttercup's disappointment, though she agreed nonetheless. They arrived at Hosu Hospital in the early evening. Buttercup crossed her arms in contempt, feeling uneasy in her nurse dress. Inside the hospital, she trailed after Chio, observing the bustling corridors and hushed conversations of medical staff. After Recovery Girl attended to all the formalities and greeted the doctors and staff, they finally made their way to the next floor. So Granny, what exactly are we doing here? Please tell me this isn't your attempt to convince me to become a doctor hero like you, Buttercup remarked, giving Chio a sidelong glance. Chio shook her head with a chuckle. No dearie, though I still insist that having you permanently under me would finally free me for retirement, she teased before regaining her serious composure. Buttercup rolled her eyes. Alright, so what's happening? She asked impatiently. Oh, you'll see, dearie, Chio replied solemnly. They stopped outside a patient's room, and Buttercup felt a wave of unease wash over her. It did not subside when they finally entered, and what she saw in front of her left her speechless. Buttercup, meet Tensei Ida, Chio introduced solemnly. He's a hero who faced danger for the sake of others. That name sounded familiar, but it was left to the back for now. Buttercup's gaze softened as she took in Tensei's bandaged form, lying still on the hospital bed. The room was filled with the faint scent of antiseptic, mingling with the quiet hum of medical equipment monitoring his vital signs. Tensei's face, usually a picture of confidence, was now marred by the evidence of recent trauma, bandages wrapped around his head and torso, and an arm in a sling. His complexion, usually vibrant, now bore a pallor that spoke of pain endured. What happened to him? Buttercup asked quietly, her usual bravado subdued in the presence of his resilience. She approached the bed cautiously, as if not wanting to disturb the fragile peace that enveloped him. The injuries, visible and otherwise, told a story of a hero's courage and sacrifice, of battles fought in the shadows where danger lurked. Chio stepped forward, her voice tinged with a mix of sadness and admiration. Tensei encountered a formidable adversary, an encounter that left him with severe injuries, she explained gently, her eyes flickering between Buttercup and Tensei. But his spirit remains unbroken. He's a testament to the resilience and determination that define true heroes. Buttercup nodded slowly, her gaze lingering on Tensei's still form. She could sense the weight of his heroism in the air, the sacrifices made, the battles fought, and the wounds borne in the name of protecting others. It was a stark reminder of the risks heroes face daily, far from the spotlight. Chio continued, her voice becoming more clinical as she explained, Tensei suffered multiple fractures to his spine and several broken bones. The surgeries were successful in stabilizing him, but he'll require extensive rehabilitation to regain mobility. Buttercup nodded again, absorbing the gravity of Tensei's condition. She glanced at Recovery Girl, her expression resolute. "Is there anything more that can be done?" she asked firmly, her voice betraying an underlying urgency. Recovery Girl paused for a moment, meeting Buttercup's determined gaze with empathy. "The medical team has done all they could for his physical injuries," her voice more disheartened next. "They say that he will never be able to work again, much less be a hero," she began, anticipating Buttercup's reaction. "What?" Buttercup interrupted sharply, frustration bubbling to the surface. "But there has to be something. He's a hero. We can't just leave it at that." Recovery Girl held up a calming hand, her tone gentle yet firm. "Buttercup," she said softly, "they've done all they could with surgery and medicine. However, there are many other forms of healing that are just as crucial." "But what do you mean?" Buttercup asked, her voice now tinged with uncertainty. Recovery Girl smiled knowingly. "Healing isn't just about fixing bones and wounds," she explained patiently. "It's also about emotional support, companionship, and encouragement, a gentle hand if you wish. Tensei will need all of that to recover fully." Buttercup's features softened as the realization dawned on her. "Other forms of healing," she echoed, understanding now dawning in her eyes. Chio nodded in agreement. "Exactly, Buttercup. Being there for him, supporting him through this, that's what will make a difference now." "I get it," Buttercup said quietly, her voice filled with determination. "Thank you, Recovery Girl." Chio smiled warmly. "You're welcome, Buttercup. Now, let's give Tensei the space he needs to recover. There's much more for us to do." Making their way out of the room, Buttercup caught one last look at the sleeping hero, as if to burn the picture into her mind. A thought coming to her head. The two spent the night at the hospital and begun another day. Their visit concluded with Buttercup assisting nurses and organizing supplies, her mind buzzing with newfound insights into heroism and healing. As they prepared to leave, news spread through the hospital: the hero-killer stain had been defeated. Buttercup's fists clenched at her sides, frustration evident. "Why does someone else always get to take down the creeps?" she grumbled, her longing for action burning fiercely. Chio hummed softly, her gaze thoughtful. "It was a dangerous battle, Buttercup. Sometimes, victory comes with a price," she replied cryptically. "I know I could take him," she smugly said as she flipped through medical charts. Buttercup's heart skipped a beat when she spotted Blossom's name. "What's Blossom doing here?" she muttered to herself, scanning the paperwork with growing concern. Then it hit her, and without warning, bolted off. Chio glanced over from her desk. "Buttercup, wait," she called out, sensing her student's unease. Ignoring Chio's protests, Buttercup rushed out of the office, her mind racing with worry and anger. "I have to find out what's going on with Blossom," she called back over her shoulder, disappearing down the corridor. Chio sighed, shaking her head fondly. "Heroes," she muttered to herself, already planning the conversation she would have with Buttercup when she returned. "So yeah, I'm wearing a dress and training under Granny or whatever," she said dismissively. She didn't include some other little details from her story. Wow, and to think, it took an elderly lady for the tough girl to even show a hint of feminism and empathy. "Recovery Girl is surely a hero among heroes," Blossom said in mock awe, finding it all pretty funny. "I may be a nurse, but I didn't take any pledge to not knock you on your tired butt, Red," she declared with rising anger. "And she's back," Blossom said in a deadpan voice. "It was nice while it lasted," she added in a disappointed tone. Before Buttercup could retort, her phone suddenly rang, cutting the conversation. She took it out of her pocket and realized who was calling, more particularly two people. The caller ID showed both Bubbles and Midnight. Anticipating a backlash of concern and eager to talk off her ear, she had the perfect solution and payback in hand. Blossom could instantly see the conniving grin on her face. "Buttercup, don't you even," she wasn't fast enough to finish her sentence or beat the speed at which Buttercup pressed the answer button. "Yes," Blossom will explain while I tend to patients. Bye. Buttercup tossed the phone to the reluctant girl and, as if a fire had broken out, ran like the wind. Buttercup, her yells fell on deaf ears as the raven-haired girl laughed and disappeared from her sight. Blossom could only groan as she stared down at the cell phone and bit the bullet. Summoning what little strength she had, Blossom cleared her throat and spoke, "Hello. Blossom? Blossom? Where have you been? I've been worried sick and then I see on the news that you were in HOSU City. Don't tell me it's not true as." Blossom had only one passing thought, I am so getting Buttercup for this. In a dimly lit office overlooking the bustling city, a large screen illuminates the room with images of the Powerpuff Girls in action. Seated across from each other are two figures as they watched the screen with focused eyes. "What's your take on them, ma'am?" the man asked, studying the screen intently. "They could prove to be invaluable assets, Endeavor. Their abilities are unmatched," she replied, her voice was calm and measured. He nodded, a hint of calculation in his voice. "Should we mobilize our resources?" Shaking her head subtly, "Not yet. We must exercise patience. These girls, they hold the key to our goals." Raising an eyebrow skeptically, "And if they refuse? Then we will need to be persuasive." "But I doubt it will come to that," a faint smile crossing her lips. The screen shifts to footage of the aftermath of a battle, the hero killer's final speech. "He. Him. It's him. Destroy." Stain's voice reverberated down the alleyway, each word a furious crescendo. His eyes, wide with manic intensity, scanned the scene before him, locking onto an unseen presence that only he seemed to perceive. Chaos. Doom. End. All powers not equal. Destinies align. Lies. Lies. All might true. His body shook erratically, he slammed his boot into the street as he glared at all those frozen in his presence. A knife pointed at his target. "You speak lies. No one greater than All Might." His voice reached a fever pitch, words devolving into unintelligible cries of defiance and condemnation. The heroes in the alley exchanged bewildered glances and instinctively took a step backwards, as did several of the sidekicks. Even Endeavor felt his skin crawl from the intensity of the hero killer's sheer psychotic rage the villain was giving off, unsure of what Stain was ranting about, their concern growing with each passing moment. Midoriya and Todoroki stood ready, assessing the situation cautiously amidst Stain's frenzied tirade, but was merely a facade to the fear they were met with. "It shall not be only by his hands will I die." Real. Fakes. A battle ended a dash, then, without warning, a radiant pink glow enveloped Stain, casting his thrashing figure into stark relief against the darkness. The energy was like a tranquilizer, taking hold of the hero killer instantly, and just like magic, he was knocked out. The sound of a knife clattering in the street caused everyone's heart to jump, snapping everyone out of the fear entrapping them all. Silence descended upon the alley as everyone processed the sudden turn of events. All eyes turned to the suspect. Blossom, who now was standing up, out of the hands of the hero native, seemingly without exhaustion or fatigue. Her eyes were by a glow, as was her hand, raised in the direction of the fallen villain. She offered no explanation, expressionless but focused as well. Before anyone could speak, the glow faded, leaving Blossom to collapse to the ground, as if the exhaustion came rushing back. The heroes rushed to her side, their minds racing with questions and concerns, but for now, they focused on ensuring Blossom was safe. In the aftermath of Stain's outburst, the alley remained shrouded in a tense stillness, the echoes of his rant lingering in the air like an ominous warning of things to come. But a message was indeed sent out, and it was up to anyone to decipher it. Yokohama City. As the days passed and internships progressed, many students settled into their hero placements smoothly. Some were fortunate to work in their desired cities alongside their chosen pro mentors, while others ventured further afield. In Yokohama, a city scarred by a cataclysmic villain attack, the once bustling coastline now resembled a war zone. Towering skyscrapers lay in ruin, stark against the calm waters that once gently lapped at the shore. Amidst the chaos, desperate cries for help echoed through the air, pleading for salvation from the debris-strewn streets. Answering the urgent call, a squadron of pro-heroes descended upon the scene with unwavering resolve. Leading them was the formidable Gang Orca. Clad in a hero costume that accentuated his imposing presence, he cut a figure that evoked both heroism and the eerie allure of a predator. Gang Orca's physique, shaped by his mutant-type quirk, bore striking resemblance to that of a killer whale. Towering over the devastation, his deep white eyes, encircled by rings that intensified his gaze, surveyed the destruction with unyielding focus. The intensity of his stare could chill even the bravest souls, a testament to his reputation as a hero whose aura sometimes mirrored that of a villain. His iconic hero attire featured a pristine white suit with a high collar that reached up to his chin. Adorned with diamond-shaped patterns resembling teeth, the collar added a menacing edge to his formidable appearance. Completing the ensemble was a pink tie cleverly designed to resemble a protruding tongue, offering a whimsical yet striking contrast to the seriousness of his role. Gang Orca's towering presence commanded respect and instilled hope in the survivors. By his side, loyal sidekicks coordinated efforts, while Bubbles, the newest addition to the team, brought with her a sense of unwavering optimism and compassion. As they arrived at the scene, Gang Orca surveyed the chaos with a stern gaze, his killer whale quirk hinting at the power concealed behind his calm demeanor. Beside him were a handful of his sidekicks, wearing black skin-tight bodysuits that cover them entirely, including their faces and hands, which are decorated with thin white lines over their torsos, equipped with a blue and gray cement gun on their right arms. And his new intern, Bubbles, dressed in her blue hero costume, feeling a mix of nerves and determination. She had been assigned to intern at Gang Orca's agency, renowned for its expertise in rescue and disaster response. She had been preparing for this moment during her short time with the agency. This mission marked Bubbles' first real assignment alongside a seasoned hero, and it was a mission that did not involve her other sisters and/or Townsville. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on her young shoulders, yet her resolve remained steadfast. "We've got civilians either scattered or trapped in the wreckage," Gang Orca's deep voice reverberated through the air. "Team 1, focus on locating survivors and keeping them calm. The others and I will handle the villains." The designated sidekicks and Bubbles, now part of the control team, nodded. Her heart raced as she moved to search for people in trouble. She sent out a ripple of her blue aura, scanning for signs of life near her. Soon, she spotted a group of frightened civilians huddled together near a collapsed building, 4 adults and 2 kids. Hurrying over, Bubbles didn't hesitate to carefully remove the debris blocking their path. Taking a deep breath, she activated her abilities, channeling her emotions into a calming blue aura that washed over the people. "You'll be okay," she said softly but firmly as she approached the group. "I'm here to help." Her aura, coupled with her reassuring voice, began to ease their nerves. However, just as she thought they were safe, she noticed a look of shock on one of the children's faces, signaling. "Don't make promises you can't keep, little girl," a voice interrupted. Bubbles reacted swiftly, creating a force field just in time to block an incoming sand blast aimed at her and the civilians behind her. Emerging from the swirling dust and debris was a henchman, his figure obscured by the sands he controlled. His quirk, Sandscape, allowed him to manipulate sand with deadly precision, turning it into a weapon of destruction. The henchman, clad in a tattered black costume adorned with swirling sand patterns, grinned wickedly at Bubbles. "You think your little force field can stop me, sweetie?" he taunted, his voice tinged with malice. Bubbles narrowed her eyes, her blue aura shimmering around her as she prepared for the confrontation. "I'm here to protect these people," she retorted firmly, her voice filled with determination. With a flick of her wrist, she summoned a sonic sphere, aiming to destabilize the swirling sand around the henchman. The henchman reacted swiftly, manipulating the sand to form a dense shield that absorbed the sonic orb, resulting in a large explosion. With a sweeping motion of his hand, he sent a barrage of sand spikes hurtling towards Bubbles and the civilians behind her. Reacting quickly, Bubbles leaped into action. She sprinted towards the frightened civilians, her hand surrounded by a protective blue aura. As the sand spikes descended, she formed her force field once again, nullifying the jagged projectiles with a scowl of determination. "Let's see how you handle this," she exclaimed defiantly, unleashing a concentrated sonic scream towards the henchman. The blast tore through the air with a piercing shriek, momentarily disrupting his concentration and overwhelming his defenses. Seizing the opportunity, Bubbles charged forward, aiming a powerful punch at the henchman. Her blow connected solidly, causing him to disperse into swirling dust. Before she could react further, Bubbles was engulfed in a sudden dust storm that obscured her vision. The storm whipped up with centrifugal force, sending her tumbling through the air with a scream of surprise. "What's wrong, little baby? Got dust in your eyes?" The henchman's mocking voice rang out as he conjured a devastating sandstorm. Unbeknownst to him, Bubbles' eyes began to glow with a radiant blue light, her emotions rising to meet the challenge. Meanwhile, Gang Orca was locked in a fierce battle with Tremor, the leader of the Earthquake Enforcers. Tremor, a burly villain with a rugged appearance, grinned maliciously as he unleashed powerful seismic waves, aiming to destabilize the area further. Gang Orca, relying on his enhanced speed and strength, dodged the incoming rubble with precision. The ground shook violently under the force of Tremor's attacks. "You think you can stop us, hero?" Tremor taunted, his voice carrying over the rumbling ground. "This city is ours for the taking." Gang Orca remained stoic, his trained instincts guiding him through the chaotic battlefield. He countered Tremor's assaults with precise sonic blasts, each wave resonating with force and purpose. The clash intensified, sending shockwaves through the air, though Gang Orca was thankful there were no civilians in his immediate vicinity. "All right, men, gather those civilians. We'll need them as leverage against the real heroes," Tremor commanded, directing his remaining henchmen towards the frightened bystanders. As the villains closed in on the civilians, a concentrated beam of energy shot forth, forcing them to retreat. In the midst of the swirling sandstorm, a pulse of blue light burst forth, destabilizing the tempest to the surprise of onlookers. Bubbles, still airborne, summoned familiar blue sound spheres, launching them at the villains below. Each sphere exploded with a resonant boom, incapacitating most of the unsuspecting enemies. As Bubbles landed, she quickly checked on the civilians, relieved to find them safe within the protective sound bubble she had hastily created. Her relief was short-lived when she noticed one person missing. "Where's the little kid?" she thought frantically, scanning the area until her eyes fell upon a scene that made her heart sink. The henchman with the sand quirk stood menacingly, holding the missing child in his arms. The boy's face was a mask of horror. "No!" Bubbles cried out, her heart pounding in her chest. Anger and worry surged through her, threatening to overwhelm her resolve. The villain turned to the blonde in turn, eyes ablaze with malice. "Enough with these stupid games, BRT. You and all these hero frauds will let me and my men go, or I will ensure this boy takes a nice nap. A dirt nap." His threat echoed loudly, punctuated by sand slowly gathering around the young boy's body, encasing him from hands to feet, leaving the onlookers in panic. "Someone, please help my son," cried one of the adults, fear evident in their voice. The child trembled, his eyes wide with fright and terror. "And no, please, someone help. Shut up. Or else I'll have no use for a whiny BRT like. You're just another big bully." Everyone turned to the source of the defiant voice. To their surprise, Bubbles stood there, her eyes and body glowing with a vibrant blue light as she summoned her powers. Her blue aura sprung forth, enveloping everything around her. "What are you doing?" The man's voice trailed off as he felt his emotions suddenly calm. An odd serenity filled the air around the small battlefield. "Gang Orca," someone shouted, catching Bubbles' attention. "Look!" Gang Orca, having just concluded his battle with the main villain, turned to see what was unfolding. He observed the scene before him closely, preparing to intervene if necessary. The villain, still dazed, failed to notice a bubble forming between him and the child. It quickly expanded, creating a barrier that separated them. Bubbles seized the opportunity, leaping forward to scoop the child into her arms. She swiftly returned to the group of civilians, where the child found safety in the embrace of a grateful parent. A loud crash startled Bubbles as she turned to see the henchman enveloped in a swirling vortex of sand. His anger was palpable. "I warned you not to interfere, hero," the villain sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "If I can't escape, then I have nothing to lose. Now, I won't be so merciful to any of you." Sand spikes rapidly formed, and whirls of sand scattered dangerously across the battlefield. Bubbles' eyes still glowed with a cold blue intensity. "What? Too afraid to fight me now, little girl?" the man sneered, reveling in what he thought was his victory. Unbeknownst to him, a couple of blue butterflies fluttered before him. What the hell are these? He wondered aloud, peering through his sandstorm to see where they were coming from. With her hand aglow, Bubbles had summoned these ethereal creatures, a flock of butterflies that circled around the villain. Without hesitation, she flicked her hands, causing the butterflies to emit a piercing frequency that shattered windows and made the ground tremble. The disorienting sound forced the villain to clutch his ears in agony, giving Bubbles the perfect opening. She lunged at him, landing a powerful punch across his face. The civilians, witnessing Bubbles' bravery, cheered in relief and admiration. But Bubbles didn't stop there. She continued to rain blows and kicks upon the now defeated villain amidst the swirling sandstorm. "How do you like that, you big bully?" her voice rang out triumphantly, drowning out the sounds of fists colliding with flesh. The man crumpled to the ground, barely conscious and covered in bruises. However, amidst the cheers, Bubbles stood trembling, her hands still glowing faintly with blue energy. A turbulent mix of anger and worry surged within her, emotions absorbed from witnessing the wreckage and the suffering of the people around her fueled her disdain for the villain before her. It all boiled over, igniting a blazing fury within her. Her aura pulsated with anger, resonating like the crescendo of a rock anthem, intensifying with each passing moment. Footsteps approached from behind. She whipped around, prepared to confront the villain who had stirred her wrath, but it wasn't him. Instead, Bubbles saw Gang Orca standing there, his eyes fixed on her with the same stoic and emotionless demeanor he always maintained. Without uttering a word, he unleashed a controlled sound pulse. The sonic wave shook her out of her emotional maelstrom just in time. Overwhelmed, she sank to her knees, struggling to quell the now subsiding storm of emotions. She looked up at Gang Orca, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "I'm sorry," she mumbled, her voice barely above a whisper. "I lost control." Gang Orca nodded once. "We'll discuss this further at the agency." With a neutral expression, he turned to address his sidekicks and the remaining heroes who had gathered around. "For now, gather these criminals and take them to the authorities." His command was met with immediate compliance. The heroes sprang into action, securing the subdued villains and organizing their transport. Bubbles kept her head bowed as she walked away from the scene. Before she could retreat too far, she was surrounded by the grateful civilians she had rescued. They rushed to thank her profusely, expressing their relief and gratitude. The young boy she had saved broke away from the group and approached her, enveloping her waist in a tight hug, looking up with a bright smile. "Thank you so much," he said earnestly, his voice filled with admiration. "You're my hero." Bubbles was momentarily stunned by his words, but she managed a shy smile. She knelt down to his level and hugged him gently. "You're welcome," she whispered into his ear. Meanwhile, Gang Orca silently observed the heartwarming scene, though his demeanor remained impassive. As the last of the criminals were taken away, he directed his team back to their agency headquarters. Gang Orca's agency. The headquarters of Gang Orca's agency, Trident Heroes, commanded a prime location in the heart of Ocean View City. Its sleek, modern design mirrored the bustling cityscape outside, reflecting a blend of functionality and maritime elegance. The exterior shimmered with hues of deep blue and pristine white, a testament to the agency's dedication to heroism and order. Inside, the corridors hummed with activity as heroes and support staff moved purposefully among offices and training rooms. Framed accolades adorned the walls, each a testament to past successes and the unwavering dedication of trident heroes to protecting their city. In the expansive training room, Gang Orca and Bubbles engaged in a rigorous sparring session. The air crackled with energy as their movements created a symphony of strikes and evasions. Bubbles launched herself into the fray with determination. Her attacks were swift and precise, each blow calculated to test Gang Orca's defenses. She ducked under his powerful swings, her agility a testament to her enhanced physical abilities. With a burst of speed, she closed the distance and delivered a flurry of punches, each strike resonating with controlled power. Gang Orca, towering and imposing, countered with measured strength and skill. His deep white eyes followed Bubbles' movements with unwavering focus, anticipating her next move with the instincts of a seasoned hero. Despite her tenacity, he parried her attacks with ease, pushing her back with a calculated shove. "You should have signaled for assistance." Gang Orca's deep voice resonated through the room as they exchanged powerful blows. His movements were precise, calculated, a testament to his experience and mastery. "Your impulsiveness today endangered not only yourself but also the civilians you sought to protect." Bubbles gritted her teeth, frustration mingling with determination. "I understand, sir," she retorted between breaths, launching another series of attacks. "But I couldn't just stand by and watch them get hurt." Her fists blurred as she aimed a series of rapid jabs towards Gang Orca's midsection and face, each strike delivered with a mix of skill and power. The training room echoed with the sounds of their intense spar, the air filled with the energy of their clash. "I am a Powerpuff girl, I can't just run away if I am able to do something," she mentally told herself. While she was thinking, she dodged another lightning-fast power punch from the Orca hero and seized the opening to deliver a glowing punch of her own. The strike intersected with Gang Orca's gut, causing the hero to stifle a grunt as he skidded back across the padded floor of the training room. Gang Orca's exterior showed no signs of pain, but internally, he was holding back the ache as he acknowledged the strength behind his young intern's blow. "This girl is stronger than she looks," he mused to himself. "I have seen countless first years in my days, but none having able to cause me this much pain at this level." He knew her strength lay not only in her abilities but also in her unwavering resolve to protect others. "I have a strange telling that this is not even her true strength," readjusting his stance to dodge another incoming sonic blast from Bubbles. He countered with a strike of his own, prompting Bubbles to swiftly erect a shimmering shield to deflect it. The battle continued with both heroes showcasing their prowess. Gang Orca managed to block more of Bubbles' strikes with a well-timed sweep of his arm, his expression softening imperceptibly. Despite his stern demeanor, he recognized the fire within Bubbles, the same unwavering spirit that drove heroes to greatness. After a prolonged exchange that tested both their skills, Gang Orca abruptly halted the sparring session. He stood before Bubbles, his towering figure softened by a reassuring smile. "You did well, Bubbles," he said, his voice gentle yet firm. "If what I saw today is any indication, you already possess a hero's heart and courage." Bubbles nodded earnestly, absorbing Gang Orca's words. Her earlier frustrations began to ebb, replaced by a sense of validation and determination. "But remember," Gang Orca continued, his tone firm now, "emotional control is as important as power in this line of work. You have the potential to be a great hero, but you must learn to HRNSS your abilities responsibly." Bubbles took a deep breath, her gaze steady as she internalized his advice. She knew that her emotions were more complicated, but she would HRNSS them well. "This mission was a trial by fire," Gang Orca added thoughtfully. "A test for you, and for me to see if what Nizu said about you and your sisters was right. You may have shortly lost control today, but you're learning and emerging stronger." Feeling a surge of gratitude and respect, Bubbles surprised Gang Orca by stepping forward and embracing him in a heartfelt hug. "Thank you, Sir," she screamed out in joy. Gang Orca stiffened momentarily in surprise, not used to people, much less kids, openly embracing him on account of him looking villainous, but then he relaxed, patting her back with a large hand. Why yes, yes, he cleared his throat. You can rest for the remainder of the day, Gang Orca said after a moment, his voice retaining a hint of sternness. But we resume training tomorrow. You still have much to learn and I will make sure of that. Okie dokie, Bubbles nodded eagerly, her determination evident in her eyes. With a quick salute, she left the training room to go to her room. Gang Orca watched her go, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. His mind immediately went back to his call with Nizu. The principal had requested for him to intern a certain student, and though he was not against that, he did wonder why it was the principal calling and not the homeroom teacher. After the past couple of days, he understood why he had chosen the killer whale hero. Forest terrain. Deep within a secluded forest, sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor. The air hummed with the rustle of leaves and the distant calls of birds, while the occasional ripple of a nearby stream added a soothing rhythm to the serene setting. Here, amidst the tranquility of nature, Koda found himself on an internship with the wild pussycats, honing his unique abilities under the guidance of experienced heroes. Koda stood at the edge of a small clearing, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets to the wind. He was in the midst of a training session, tasked with mastering the two aspects of his quirk, wild link, Ani voice and animal trait absorption under the watchful eyes of Mandalay and Pixie Bob, two seasoned members of the wild pussycats. The air was charged with anticipation as Koda focused, trying to connect with the wildlife around him. Remember, Koda, Mandalay's voice carried a gentle yet firm tone, the Ani voice aspect of your quirk needs for you to be assertive and clear. Your shyness is, I'm afraid, a hindrance, needs to be overcome. Pixie Bob nodded encouragingly, her green eyes sparkling with warmth. Let's start with something manageable. Try calling upon the forest birds first. With a deep breath, Koda hesitated for a moment, then took a step forward, summoning his courage. Bird friends of the forest come to me, he began tentatively, his voice barely audible even in the quiet surroundings. Koda was understandably disappointed. Before Mandalay could offer some advice, Pixie Bob dramatically sighed and with a mischievous smile, addressed the poor boy. Come on, my little scaredy main CN. Dig deep into that big heart of yours. How are you going to confess to that little kitten you chat with on the phone, if your voice is so shy and low? Mandalay shot Pixie Bob a reproachful look, mentally urging her to stay focused on the training. Koda's cheeks flushed bright red, embarrassed by the unexpected teasing but also spurred on by the need to prove himself. I have to dig deep, he told himself. Ignoring the distraction, Koda closed his eyes and steadied his resolve. I can do this, he muttered to himself, his voice gaining a fraction of volume. Bird friends of the forest, I call upon you. Come to me, please, his words echoed through the trees with a hint of determination. In response, a few birds chirped in the distance, cautiously acknowledging his call but keeping their distance. Sensing Koda's growing confidence, Mandalay nodded approvingly. Keep going, Koda. Louder. Gathering his courage, Koda took another deep breath. Birds of the forest. Come to me. His voice, though still soft, carried further, resonating through the forest. With a flutter of wings, several colorful songbirds descended from the treetops, their curious eyes fixed on Koda. He smiled gratefully, heartened by their response and his own progress. Good, Koda, Mandalay praised softly. Now, focus on the next aspect of your quirk, absorbing a select animal's traits. Look around the area, and choose wisely. Koda nodded, his eyes briefly glowing yellow as he activated his animal trait absorption. He approached a swift-footed deer that had ventured closer, gently touching its flank. In an instant, he temporarily absorbed the deer's speed and agility, feeling a surge of energy flow through him. As he stepped back, the deer bounded away gracefully, leaving Koda feeling exhilarated by the successful absorption. His eyes returned to normal. Mandalay nodded. Okay, Koda, we will test your holding time with the deer's traits, Mandalay warned, her voice carrying a note of caution. Koda nodded eagerly, his heart racing with anticipation and a touch of nervousness. This was the moment to demonstrate not only his control over the absorbed trait but also his ability to apply it effectively in a practical situation. Mandalay motioned Pixie Bod to begin. And with twist of her wrist, a large shake went off, not too far from them, as well as erecting a stone pillar, for which both her and Mandalay were standing upon. In the clearing before them, the trio of boars thundered closer, their massive forms crashing through the underbrush. Mandalay and Pixie Bob assumed defensive positions, ready to support Koda as needed. "Remember, Koda," Mandalay's voice came through clearly in his mind, her telepathic guidance grounding him amidst the tension. "Focus on using the deer's agility to maneuver and evade." With a deep breath, Koda concentrated on the trait he had absorbed from the swift-footed deer. He felt a surge of energy coursing through him, enhancing his reflexes and agility. As the first boar charged towards him, Koda moved, and despite his large form, with newfound grace, sidestepping its powerful charge with nimble footwork. Pixie Bob's voice echoed from the side, her playful tone mixing with encouragement. "Come on, Main CN. Show those boars what you're made of." Despite the pressure and the adrenaline pumping through his veins, Koda maintained his focus. He dodged another boar's lunge, using the deer's agility to leap over fallen logs and weave through the dense foliage. Each movement was calculated, his enhanced senses and reflexes aiding him in staying one step ahead of the charging beasts. Mandalay observed with a keen eye, noting Koda's control and adaptability under pressure. "Well done, Koda," she praised, her voice a steady anchor amidst the chaos. "Keep it up." Encouraged by her words, Koda pushed himself further, testing the limits of the absorbed trait. He maneuvered with increasing confidence, utilizing the deer's speed to evade and outmaneuver the boars effectively. As the battle wore on, Koda's control over the deer's traits remained steady, a testament to his growing mastery of his quirk. With each passing moment, he felt more connected to the forest around him, to the animals that had become his allies through Wild Link. Finally, with a final leap and agile twist, Koda evaded the last boar's charge, leaving it disoriented and temporarily subdued by its own momentum. He stood panting but victorious, the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. Mandalay approached him with a proud smile, her eyes reflecting admiration for his progress. "You did exceptionally well, Koda," she commended warmly. "Your ability to absorb and apply traits over set time is improving steadily." Pixie Bob joined them. "Not bad, my handsome Main CN. I guess you're not just all shy," her voice took on a flirtatious teasing effect, "you also have some bravery in you, huh?" And with that, Koda comes back to his blushing self, taking cover behind Mandalay, who sighs to herself. Fat Gum Agency. Few days back. In the bustling cityscape of Esuha City, Momo walked purposefully with her hero luggage in hand, her eyes set on the horizon of the Kansai region where Fat Gum's renowned agency awaited her. The memory of her disappointing sports festival performance still fresh in her mind, she was resolute in her decision to improve her skills, and this internship offered a promising path forward. As she approached the towering edifice that housed Fat Gum's agency, thoughts raced through her mind. "I've researched extensively about the hero in charge here, his quirk mechanics are said to mirror mine. I hope this choice will prove pivotal in honing my abilities," she thought to herself, adjusting her glasses with a determined gaze. Lost in her anticipation, she inadvertently collided with someone crossing her path, briefly startling them both. "Oh, I'm sorry about that." No, it was my bad. I didn't see." Both Momo and Kirishima froze mid-sentence when they laid eyes on each other. Momo caught her breath after a moment before speaking again. "Oh, Kirishima, pardon me," she apologized once more. "It's fine, Momo. I wasn't paying attention to where I was running to," he admitted. As they stood before the entrance, a moment of surprise passed between them. Momo adjusted her glasses, a small smile quirking her lips. "Kirishima-kun, I didn't expect to see you here." Kirishima chuckled, scratching the back of his head. "Yeah, same. Guess we've got similar tastes in hero agencies, huh?" Momo nodded, her curiosity piqued. Indeed. It's good to know we'll be working together. She had to admit that the prospects of interning with a familiar face, albeit if they have not properly conversed, to be uplifting. Kirishima grinned, his usual enthusiasm shining through. Totally. Let's go in and meet Fat Gum Sensei. I'm pumped. Inside the agency, the atmosphere buzzed with energy and determination. Kirishima and Momo spotted Fat Gum across the room, his large, round figure easily standing out among the crowd of heroes and sidekicks. Despite his size, his demeanor exuded both warmth and authority, drawing them in with a sense of anticipation. Fat Gum's hero costume, a reflection of his heroic persona, consisted of practical black pants and an eye-catching orange, zippered hood. Emblazoned on the front were the initials of his alias, FG, with a stylized design that incorporated both a clear F and an inverted F. His ensemble was completed with sturdy gloves, metallic boots, and a mask that encircled his eyes and forehead, giving him a distinctive and formidable appearance. As Kirishima and Momo approached, Fat Gum turned towards them with a warm smile. "Ah, Kirishima, Yaoyorozu," he greeted enthusiastically. "Glad you could make it. Ready for your first day?" Kirishima nodded eagerly. "Absolutely, Fat Gum Sensei. We're excited to learn from you." Momo nodded politely, her demeanor composed yet eager. "Thank you for accepting us into your agency, Fat Gum-san. We look forward to working under your guidance." "Glad to hear it. Let's step into my office and we can properly talk from there." They followed Fat Gum into his office, a comfortable space adorned with hero memorabilia and equipped with a desk that looked both busy and meticulously organized. Taking seats opposite him, they awaited his insights. "Now then, you both have decided to intern under my agency, which is great," Fat Gum began, settling into his chair with a thoughtful expression. "Let's discuss your performances during the sports festival and what we aim to accomplish during your internship." Kirishima leaned forward, his eyes filled with determination. "I know my hardening quirk isn't flashy, but I want to learn how to use it more strategically and push its limits." Fat Gum nodded thoughtfully, his reassuring tone calming Kirishima's nerves. "Your quirk may not be flashy, Kirishima, but it is undeniably effective, especially in withstanding powerful attacks." He paused, gathering his thoughts before continuing with enthusiasm. "Over-reliance on your quirk can be a double-edged sword. We'll focus on enhancing your combat versatility, honing your instincts, and refining your tactical thinking. Your quirk excels in defense, and with the right guidance, we can also harness its potential for offense." Turning to Momo, Fat Gum shifted gears. "Yaoyorozu-san, your creation quirk is undoubtedly impressive. However, if I may be honest, your performance at the sports festival left much to be desired. There were moments of hesitation and overthinking, especially during the group challenge." Momo felt a pang of disappointment in herself but nodded resolutely at Fat Gum's words. "I understand, sir. My performance was lacking, and that's why I am even more determined to improve." Her voice carried a firm resolve, reflecting her commitment to learn and grow from her past shortcomings. "Good," Fat Gum nodded approvingly. "Now, before we dive into more about your training regimen," Fat Gum said with a reassuring smile, "I think it's best if I assess your current skill levels firsthand." "Come with me," they nodded to that. He led Kirishima and Momo to a spacious training field adjacent to the agency. Waiting there was a slightly bashful young man with an earnest expression, whom Fat Gum introduced. "You might not have met him, but this is Tamaki Amajiki, also known as Sun Eater. He's your senior, currently in his third year at UA." Tamaki stood quietly, dressed in a distinctive hero costume featuring a black bodysuit with beige plating on the arms and shoulders. His attire included a white tunic and matching cape, along with a silver front mask and a thin beige mask with a transparent purple lens over his face. Opting for bare feet, Tamaki's choice reflected his unique approach to heroism. Hi, Tamaki greeted nervously, his eyes darting between the three of them. "I'm Tamaki Amajiki. Nice to meet you." Both Momo and Kirishima give a respectful bow to their senior. It is pleasure to meet you, senpai, they address. Fat Gum nodded warmly. Tamaki here is one of our most skilled heroes in training. He's here shortly to help me evaluate your abilities today. Tamaki shifted uncomfortably, but nodded in agreement. Alright, Kirishima, Yaoyorozu, Fat Gum continued, gesturing towards Tamaki, show them what you've got Tamaki, and give them a good challenge. Tamaki hesitated for a moment before nodding again, his demeanor hesitant yet determined. Oh okay, I'll do my best. Alright, begin. The battle erupted with a flurry of movement as Kirishima charged forward with his characteristic hardening. Alright. Here I come, he exclaimed, aiming to close the distance between himself and Tamaki quickly. However, Tamaki's quirk, which allowed him to manifest the attributes of anything he consumed, proved to be a tricky matchup. He deftly avoided Kirishima's attacks while countering with octopus tentacles sprouting from his hands. They lashed out at Kirishima, who fortunately managed to defend against the attack. Wow, such power, he muttered to himself, quickly catching his breath. Tamaki jumped back and narrowly dodged a cannon attack. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Momo, the Creati quirk user, forming another cannon. Just as she was about to complete her creation, a tentacle blitzed toward her, striking her off balance and interrupting her concentration. She evaded another tentacle strike, her mind racing to come up with another creation to use but failing under the pressure. In a moment of desperation, she formed her metal staff. Sun Eater swiftly maneuvered his tentacles to apply pressure to Momo, effectively implementing his strategy. Momo did her best to block, strike, and dodge the tentacles, but inevitably, she was knocked back as well. The skirmish was brief but intense. Kirishima and Momo found themselves outmaneuvered and outsmarted by their senior's tactical prowess and adaptability with his quirk. As the battle concluded, Fat Gum stepped forward, clapping his hands together. Alright, that's enough, he called out to the room. Well done, Tamaki. Thank you for your help. You may go now to leave me with these kids. Tamaki scratched the back of his head, his cheeks faintly flushed. No problem. With that, the young hero quickly made his way out of the training room. Turning to Kirishima and Momo, Fat Gum's expression was both supportive and constructive. You both showed promise but also areas where you can improve. Kirishima, your direct approach is solid, but you need to anticipate more complex strategies in combat. Momo, your creations were impressive, but you need to work on faster decision-making under pressure. Kirishima and Momo exchanged a glance, their disappointment evident. Hey, look, I know it's frustrating, Fat Gum continued, his tone encouraging, but remember, growth comes from recognizing weaknesses and working to overcome them. You both have the potential to be excellent heroes, and I'm here to help you unlock that potential. Kirishima nodded determinedly, a fire reigniting in his eyes. I won't let you down, Fat Gum sensei. Momo straightened her posture, her resolve firm. Thank you, Fat Gum-san. I will strive to improve. That's the spirit. Let's head back inside and discuss your training plan moving forward. I have some exercises and drills in mind that will help sharpen your skills. He gestured for them to follow as they made their way back towards the agency building, his stride purposeful yet inviting. Kirishima, will focus on refining your combat techniques. Your hardening quirk is formidable, but we need to enhance your ability to anticipate and adapt in battle. I'll provide exercises that challenge your creativity and decisiveness, pushing you to use your quirk not just defensively, but strategically. Kirishima nodded eagerly, his determination evident. I'm ready to learn, Fat Gum sensei. Turning to Momo, Fat Gum's gaze softened with encouragement. And Momo, will work on helping you develop a more instinctive approach to using your quirk under pressure. Your creation quirk has incredible potential, but will refine your combat techniques and decision-making skills. I'll provide scenarios that test your ability to think quickly and creatively in challenging situations. Momo nodded in agreement, her expression focused. I appreciate the guidance, Fat Gum-san. I'm eager to improve. As we progress, Fat Gum continued, his voice steady and supportive, we'll also incorporate joint exercises where you both can learn from each other's strengths and weaknesses. This will help foster teamwork and mutual growth. Reaching the entrance of the agency, Fat Gum held the door open for Kirishima and Momo, his demeanor paternal yet resolute. Let's meet in the training room in an hour. We'll start with some basic drills to assess where we need to focus first. Remember, every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger. Kirishima and Momo exchanged a determined glance, nodding in unison. With Fat Gum leading the way, they entered the agency building, ready to embark on a journey of improvement under his expert guidance. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 9. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author ChiWriters on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.